I say it's time to meet.
Okay. All right. This is why I'm sorry I always do this to you.
That's right. You don't want to hear
Begin.
This is the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee regular meeting for May 2nd, 2016. Roll call.
Celeste Burrows, member.
Ken Bukowski, member.
Kate Sargent, Richards, member. Kelly Nelson, Public Works Engineer.
Sarah Milling, Assistant Planner.
Do you guys want to go ahead back here?
Robert from Bike East Bay, North Oakland Resident.
Richard Shang, KMD, on one of the agenda items.
Phil Morton, Bike East Bay, Berkeley.
Laura McKinney, member.
Tom Motor Chair.
And Marcy Greenhut, Public Works.
Oh, sorry, Marcy.
So, public comment. Items that are not on our agenda that the general public would like to comment on.
I have an item. On March 22nd, a cyclist riding west on the Bay Trail extension, which is on the south side of Powell Street, was attempting to cross the off-ramp I-80 eastbound and was hit by a car, suffering severe injury, shattered kneecap, broken fibula and tibia. She's got several months of rehab before she can go back to her job at Missing Link.
Where was she riding? Can you be more specific?
She was
on
riding
Powell?
west on the Bay Trail extension, which is a
So
bike
on
path,
the-
which is just a
south-
glorified piece of sidewalk on the south side of
She
Powell
was on the
Street.
south side. Okay, that was my question. So it was someone coming off the highway. That
Somebody coming off the highway, looking to see if there's any cars coming or
Right,
something.
Yeah.
That's a very horrible crossing. and it's
There
very
is
safe
a
crossing.
police report which suggests that the motorist and other witnesses say the motorist was driving 3 to 5 miles an hour.
Really? How could that have shattered his kneecap?
That's an interesting question.
It's the weight.
Well, I
So
guess, but
anyway,
if that-
Anyway,
if
my
that's-
concern is
yeah.
not, I mean, I'm sorry that this accident happened.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that the cyclist will get some suitable settlement, I don't know exactly. But I'm more concerned that there's a design flaw with bicyclists traveling west there and completely not being a target of motorist visibility.
Right, there used to be a sign there that said watch for pedestrians that was in the way of watching for pedestrians. And I've heard that every single one of our bicycle cops has been hit at that intersection too.
I know at least some people have.
There's been
At
a lot
least
of, there've been a
there's
lot
at
of
least one
accidents
incident.
in there.
Yeah, it's horrible. You know, they moved it, she's got a picture of it there. They moved it back a little bit, but it's still.
Yeah, they did, there were
sucks.
improvements done a couple of years ago to take out some foliage, so there's more
And
visibility
that
around
was
that
huge,
corner.
that was a huge improvement.
Yeah, but it is still, I mean, I have to say, whenever the rare occasions that I cross there, I stop and wait until I'm absolutely sure, because I do not trust the motorists there. They are very distracted by what's going on.
The motorists are very distracted in that entire area.
Because there's so many different
There's so
things
many
going on.
directions cars can be coming from, and they're looking in all of those directions. And the one place that they find it usually the hardest to look is for people crossing.
Right, and it doesn't, all it says is pedestrian crossing there. It doesn't say Bay Trail crossing.
Well, there is
Well, there's a
bicycle
bike
sign.
here and there's a bike sign here, and this image capture says March 2016. So this is fairly current.
So
Yeah.
do you have more
Okay.
detail about where, so she would have been crossing?
She was
like,
coming westbound, so she was going that way,
west on that,
on that
She was
trail.
about to cross the ramp. She was in the
Yeah.
process of crossing the ramp
And
to
it-
go under the freeway.
Right.
so which way
Another
was the
car
car
there.
turning? Was it turning?
It was turning right. It's sort of
Was-
where the
okay.
silver car might have
So you
been.
think that
Yeah.
the driver, you think that would be good visibility, but the driver, I
Did
guess,
the
was,
driver have a red
was
light or a
looking the
green
other
light?
way.
Well, it
There's
doesn't
no-
matter, because drivers never have to do more than pause there. They never have to do more than stop, because there's a right on red.
So, in the interest of keeping to what we're supposed to do in these situations, is public comment is like 3 minutes. But I think what we can do to have a more informed conversation is put it on a future agenda when we have a police report, if we can have one, and when the police representative, the police department representative is here, which I'll mention in a minute, he's not able to be here tonight. I did want to comment that in that direction from, where she would be going is sort of not the direction where motorists expect to see a bicyclist coming
That's
from. And so, and, you know, there's probably a lot of details that we don't have. And so it's kind of hard to talk about it in an informed way because we don't have all the info.
Right, I mean, you know, our
But it
enemies,
is the bike trail. I mean, it's the bike. it's the
Right,
bike
I want to
path.
say, I
So-
think
but all it
that,
shows is there's a crosswalk, and cyclists do not normally have the right of way.
Regardless of what it is, you don't know who's coming down that off-ramp. This could be
Right.
their first day in the country. We don't know.
That's
But-
right.
And they have no
That's right.
idea what
That's right.
any of those things
But I think
mean.
what we're
Right.
saying is it's too dangerous to be the big trail
So-
unless something's done for it.
So
yeah, I think it really speaks to the need for a design change, that it is a
Yeah.
design flaw, and you're right, that bicyclists are faster than pedestrians, cars don't expect them.
Yeah.
Well, and if there were a no turn on right there, which Caltrans won't allow us to do, it would help.
Yeah. it would. Or,
Because Caltrans
So-
refuses to
some-
have cars backing
No
up
turn on
on.
right.
or just even a red arrow phase to allow pedestrians when there is a bicycle or pedestrian.
So do we want to
Yes.
put this on a future agenda
Yes.
so we can give it
Let's do it. Yeah.
more time?
Well, I think
And-
that's the worst intersection in town.
I don't know, the other one at the other end of that block is
Yeah,
maybe
it's
the
worse.
worst.
The one that is the
The one that
new-
leads to the
new
bike
bike
trail.
The new one.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
several really, and the one across the pallet from there is also very dangerous, so.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
this is
if-
actually supposed to be public comment, not by us. And,
Right. So
Thank you for
we'll
bringing it.
try and get more info, like from the police report
Yeah, as to what
or
happened
something.
there.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. Can we put it on the July agenda? Because I
Yep.
think this is when somebody has
And
been
also
hit,
if
it's a
there are
good time.
city staff members who work on designs of places like this, that somebody might put some attention into it, who
Yeah.
could think of more ideas than maybe we could.
Yeah, or somebody who has experience with what is possible at that intersect, you know, what our limitations are, and what we could potentially do.
Right.
And it sounds like the issue is bigger than this single incident too. So if the police are able to bring information not just about this report, but you know the crash history at that location,
So what?
crash history at that
Okay.
location, I think that would also be.
Oh,
very
yeah,
useful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For my conversation.
On the other side, on the other side.
Absolutely, you have a right against traffic.
I know, it's pretty scary both ways.
Yes,
It's nonstop
thank you.
traffic through the right.
Bring it over.
Move the dumpsters,
Right, there are-
two-way path.
And that,
Well, that's across private property, so I
Yeah.
think that's, you know.
Oh, is that why?
No, you can say no.
I didn't
So
realize it
as a
was private
cyclist, you
property.
expect to take Christie Avenue in Shellman?
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
That's the Bay Trail extension.
so the question.
And we did just recently, Emeryville fixed one part of it. We used to have to go through a parking lot of the Four Seasons,
Four
Four
Points.
Points. And now that, which didn't make a whole lot of sense and wasn't very safe. And now that, there's that, yeah, on Christie,
It's a
there's
cycle track
a two-way
now.
cycle track. So there have been some improvements, but clearly it's not enough. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
It would have been nice to have done all this before they had 9 lanes of traffic across the, or whatever it is.
Oh, before they expanded the freeway.
No, not the freeway, College Street.
Oh, yeah.
College Street's too big, too fast, and too wide.
So Phil, if you have the time and you want to come for the next meeting, you're welcome to come for that
Okay,
continuation.
so
Okay, so shall we move on to the approval of the March 7th regular meeting minutes?
Oh, okay, sorry. So here's the minutes, you guys, if you want to grab one and pass it around. Separate things.
Sure.
Anybody back there want minutes? It's exciting, maybe. Any corrections, let me know.
Well,
And especially, if you do have, I need a copy of one of those that are floating around.
okay. I need to correct a correction, but,
Go ahead, correct.
well, in item 2, it says
Can somebody
McKamey.
pass a copy of that over here? Thanks.
It says McKamey
Sure.
requested that details from results from February 1st special meeting be deleted. to read only that varied opinions emerged from discussion, which makes it sound like I was trying to cover something up.
Yeah,
But-
really.
But my comment was really that I felt that the notes didn't accurately reflect the range of opinions, so therefore, rather than inaccurately reflecting, and it should just say it was varied. Do you see the difference there?
So,
I just
I'm
don't wanna
sorry,
make
just
it-
tell me where this is.
So it's number 2, and it says, the second sentence
Okay.
says, McCamey requested that details from results from February
Okay.
it be deleted to read only. I would say amended instead of deleted, to read that varied opinions and take out the word only because, or corrected. Because I wasn't
You're probably
trying,
right.
So delete the word only?
I would delete the
And
word
change the
only,
word,
deleted to corrected
Deleted to
or
amended.
amended.
Meeting be corrected to read.
No, change deleted to read amended or something, yeah.
Okay, special meeting be, how do you want it to read, sorry?
A special meeting be amended to read that varied opinions emerged from discussion.
Got it.
Thank you.
anything else we need to address here? Move approval?
Okay.
Okay, the claim.
Okay.
Action items, bike to work day.
So let me just ask if you
Okay.
guys mind, I know that's not on this agenda to approve the agenda, but we do have Richard Cheng here to talk about the Stanford Healthcare Center again. And if we could move that up and just have the rest of the stuff right after that, would that be okay?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So we move to item 4.4, Stanford Healthcare Center.
Thank you very much. I'm Richard Chang with KMD. We are the architects for the infill of the building at 5800 Hollis. I think you might have recalled, actually I have a bunch of things that I can pass out. I presented the project last session. As a reminder, it is the building that is on the northeast corner. You have the northeast corner of Hollis and Powell. It's the Bureau 510 is in a little corner there. It was a building that has been empty for several years, and Stanford has signed a lease with Wareham to occupy the building as a medical office building. Very quickly, there are 4 floors, tenant improvements, they're all medical office, 23-hour stay, complete outpatient. In fact, the hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, no weekend hours. The first floor has some outpatient, has some imaging services. The second floor is primarily surgery and radiology. Third and fourth floor are general medicine exam rooms and doctor's offices. The building itself has been entitled as a lab building. It was changed to a medical office as well. The parking is the same. The parking requirements are the same. I worked that through with Sarah, so there are approximately 90 some odd parking places in the building, primarily in the basement. There are a few on the first floor. We're proposing to, let me back up. So with the medical office use, you have quite a few staff members. The parking for the building, within the building, the 90 odd spaces will be for patients and visitors only. And we are proposing, with the staff being off-site, there may be 250 spaces that are being leased in a variety of locations in the neighborhood. And the lease agreements are, I think, all signed now, and that's all part of what we've been working through the planning department with. The staff will arrive anywhere between 6 and 7 in the morning, and they'll leave between anywhere from 6 and 7 at night. They will walk generally from their parking places to the building. as far as bicyclists are concerned, we are mandated to provide 5 spaces of short-term and 5 spaces of long-term. We had proposed in our original proposal to provide 6 spaces on the first floor in the garage, immediately inside the garage entrance for bike rack, which would be for short-term parking. And down in the basement, in a corresponding space, would be 6 bike lockers for staff. I'm a cyclist myself. I would probably use neither if I were a staff member. I'd bring my bike upstairs, but that's neither here nor there. So what we are going to do, though, by the request. So that's basically it. There was no bike parking outside because of the the mandated width of the sidewalk as it stands right now, which we are not going to change. Let me back up again.
I'm going to say, Richard, may I interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
So why we're here today is you requested to see revisions to the project. And so what's happening today is Richard, and if I need to step in, I'll help, describe what is being done to address those comments so that we can understand next steps, what's going on. When we're done describing next steps with how Richard is showing that these are being addressed, I'm going to give you an update on the project in general so you can understand how it's being done procedurally.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So we're going to talk about both of those things because these have changed substantially since you've seen the project, and I just want to make sure that you're clear on where your role fits in with that and what you're going to have opportunity to review and how your concerns will be addressed by Planning Commission and staff moving forward.
So just to clarify, Sarah, so you're saying that the project, the drawings and stuff we saw, there have been some changes?
There will be, yes, and they're not ready for today.
Okay,
so,
but there are some changes happening.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that when he's done with this. Most of your concerns were about functionality and what he's written here about access. How will people know where they are? Can we have things be more visible? How will these things be communicated? So Richard's informing you how that's going to be addressed so far, and I'll follow up with how that will be addressed moving forward.
Thank you.
Does that help provide context?
Yeah, I apologize for being long-winded. Since I didn't have exhibits to set up, I just wanted to make sure, and as I was mentioning the project, I wasn't sure. I don't recognize everyone here, so I wasn't sure that everyone knew what the context was. One of the things I did want to describe, though, is because there are a limited number of parking places in the garage, and the way that you enter the garage is difficult, and the way that you can try to find parking is extremely difficult, Stanford is going to provide a valet service. So one of the site proposals will be to actually take over some street parking as a queuing space and also a pickup space. The idea is that cars will wait no longer than, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds at the most to have their cars transition from parking to being picked up, people going into the building for their appointments. And we did that for a couple different reasons. One, we didn't want to have people trying to park themselves. We didn't want the cars to be backing up into the drive lane, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and also just to clarify, all this is still in proposal stage.
all of this is proposal
None
stage.
of it is definite, just so you guys
You might-
understand that.
We'll talk about that more.
Right.
Yeah.
You might notice if you go by, of course, that they weren't a construction, because we did get our tenant improvements, the guts of the building have been approved. So what we're trying to do now is be good neighbors to make sure that what we do on the outside is going to then fit well into the community and make sure that traffic and safety concerns are met. The 3 items that came out of last meeting were doubling
With you guys.
with you all. We're doubling the number of short-term parking places. We have 12 and 6, and we will actually provide an additional 6 in the same space, in the same location. There's plenty of room, so we'll expand that, so we'll have racks for 12. You did ask whether we could provide some outside, and again, with the width of the sidewalk being mandated the way it is, and the way that, as Sarah's going to describe, the way that we are dropping people off and having the valet service be provided, in addition to which providing ADA access, both in pickup and return, taking a fair amount of space. We don't think there's a comfortable way of providing outside spaces. We certainly can try to squeeze something in, and maybe this happens later, but at this point, what we're proposing are 12 spaces inside the garage, immediately inside the entrance to the garage.
So Richard, on the letter where it says response to that first little thing, it says there is external location to comfortably provide, so you probably need no.
Sorry, there is no external.
Okay.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to say I was a little confused. So I thought the response made it sound to me like you were changing. So you had 12 total spaces. Now there will be 18.
No, we
Is that
had
right?
6. We were providing it.
6 short term. And 6 long term. So there'll still be 6 long term, and now there will be 12 long term.
Right. You know what? I will
Okay.
clarify that.
Okay. No, I
Second
understand
language,
now.
you know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in the basement, there will be 6 long-term bike parking spaces and secured lockers available.
Right.
On the primary floor in the parking garage area, they're proposing 6 racks, so 12
Oh, gotcha.
short-term
Right.
biking parking spaces, which is doubling their original proposal and what's required. And then staff will be looking for opportunities as plans get revised for exterior placement if that becomes available. So far, what we've been shown is it's not feasible, but we'll continue to look for that as things progress. So it's not completely off the table, it's just not been shown to be feasible yet.
You might know that the plan for that area mandates an 8-foot wide sidewalk, clear of any improvements, which includes bike lanes. The second item is provide wayfinding signage and directions to patients to help them find interior short-term bicycle parking, and making clear how short-term bicycle parking is to be accessed, and it is through the garage. So instructions for bicycle parking, I don't need to read this, but what I will tell you is if you take a look at the attachments here, these are just excerpts from examples of the website for each of Stanford's facilities for their sites. They have a variety of sites throughout, not just in Palo Alto, but there are places in San Jose. There are a couple of places now in San Jose, and there are places in a variety of other locations. Their websites are very robust, and what these are just, again, examples of directions on how you get to the facility. The second one is an example of how you would park. We would also then, what would happen is Stanford would actually tailor that particular, their 5800 Hollis website to include instructions on not only bike parking. The access to the facility is actually a challenging one, and I know that you have concerns about U-turns, left turns, and that sort of thing. So what we are going to do, what they'll be doing is, and the traffic report actually addresses this. It's just, I'm going to send it to you tomorrow, by the way. It is absolutely now tweaked to address both, mainly vehicular traffic, but also it actually addresses some bicycle parking, and there's a third excerpt in here about that. So again, the website is very robust. The patients also get a mailer, if they so desire, when they make an appointment. In that will also be directions on a variety of things, including the fact that there's free valet service, that there is bicycle parking. The valets themselves are the traffic cops. They will pick up cars, they will drop off cars, they will bring cars up to the entrances. They will also direct bicyclists, informing them that they should walk their bicycle into, and it's very clear where it is. We will probably add a sign to one of the drop-off signs that will say bicycle parking inside garage, see valet, that sort of thing. These are again under development. We've had to split the package, and I know Sarah will talk about that. So site signage will be also addressing that.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Could you provide valet parking for bicycles?
We did talk about that. Yeah, they could do that too. The fact is, though, that if you're going to lock your bike,
You're going to keep the key.
you're going to keep the key. It's one of those things where we could do it, but again, it's one of those things where I would prefer not to hand over my bike back to somebody. And I think you're right. The fact is, you have a lock, you have your own system on how you lock your bike.
Well, you have to have somebody watching it all the time, otherwise you have to lock it.
Or
up.
it would have to be in a locked room.
Right.
Or it'd have to be in a locked room. That would be the other, yes, but right now it is in an open space. It's a very wide section of sidewalk inside the garage that is very comfortable to provide actually even more spaces. So, yes, ma'am.
I just wondered if transit info is going to be included with this?
Absolutely.
So like, the such and such route bus stop?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And yes, we will have that. In addition, in the lobby of the main lobby, we actually are going to have a transit monitor. We'll have 2 monitors in there. One will be a monitor on patient information, but the other one we're going to have will, and we're still working on the software, we'll be scrolling information on transit information, Caltrain, AC Transit, Emeryville, BART, that sort of thing. So that will also be part of what we'll begin to be working at with the planning department. Now the final one is a challenging one, and this is sort of how do you get people not to do stupid things? So again, I think part of this will be that the valets are the ones who really control a lot of that. Now, the valet service already actually will put into play everyone going north on Hollis. Well, first of all, because the cars coming out are valet driven, you won't have somebody driving out of the driveway, and first of all, attempting to turn left onto Hollis to get back to the freeway, which is, of course, what people are inclined to do. So the valets will come up. When you pick up your car, you're already going to be beyond the driveway, opposite the main lobby. There'll be 2 spaces there, one handicapped and one not. You'll be given your key, and you're going to be told, go up to the intersection. If you want to get back on the freeway, go up the intersection, make that left-hand turn, get into the left turn lane, which is right there. Make a left turn, make another left turn, and you're back onto the freeway probably as fast as if you were to try to make that left turn out and try to make the right turn. So that will be what they will be told. Or go north directly. The people that want to go south on Hollis, beyond Powell, that's probably the biggest challenge.
Why couldn't they do the left around the block?
They could. What we don't want to, what we're not going to
Can't
tell.
turn left from Pellerville onto.
Oh, you
No,
can't.
not
You have to go
Pellerville.
right. No, you have to go to.
I
No,
see.
that's right. You're
Yeah.
correct. You have to turn right off because there's a median.
Drive through the gas
They could
station
go
and
down.
get on.
No, I see
to
what you're
Horton
saying.
and then go under.
You could go,
And then
yes.
get back up.
So the other way to do it is right. You go beyond to
That's
Horton and you go
easy.
under. But what they're not going to tell them to do is turn right and you can't take Doyle anyway because Doyle doesn't go
Doesn't go
right.
I'm
in.
sorry.
Yeah, well, you could go right around the block there.
You could go right around the block. And again, they will not be telling them to do that. They can tell them to go right on 59th all the way up to San Pablo if that's your direction. Anyway, the long and the short of it is they will be directed.
So can I ask a question about this? I
Yeah.
think, well, there's a couple things. I think that I like that the valets will be there for both items 2 and 3 I think that's very helpful to have a human being who can tell someone what to do. If they're confused, they can see it and they can repeat it. But I'm concerned even though Horton isn't Hollis is not a bicycle boulevard, there is a fair amount of bike traffic.
Yep.
And people do tend to pull out without looking, always, everywhere. I mean,
Right.
they just tend to do that. So I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know what you can do about that, other than maybe having the valets also mention to them, please watch, be careful merging back into traffic. But the other thing is what's described here might be just fine and everything's cool, or it's hard to tell. I guess what I'm getting at is hard to tell without putting it into practice.
Right.
And I wonder what the mechanism is for tweaking after everything's approved and everything's gone in and the system's up. Will we have some recourse if we in the community say, you know what, we're getting a ton of traffic on this or that bike boulevard and the people are really confused and they're not interacting well with bikes. We need a reboot of how this traffic pattern is, how people are directed, or we need firmer direction for the, something. We need some different thing It might not happen, but I guess that's my question, is there a mechanism? Because I think that's one of the things we run into is,
I can
yeah.
answer that for you, but I'm trying to just find an extra copy of what Richard, thank you.
There's plenty.
Thank you, there we go, that's fine, there we go, now I'm good.
Okay.
So I'm making a note of what you said.
I think this is one of the issues we run into a lot, is things sound great in the planning phase,
Sure.
and sometimes that works out.
If I might
in
just,
reality,
you know, do a little prelude to that. One of the things we don't know right now is how many valets they're going to need, Stanford's going to need. And one of the things that they are committed to, because they do valet parking on all of their sites, and they're all free valet spaces, basically. Some of the sites actually, they charge them after an hour. One of the ways they encourage people to leave is, you know, your first 2 hours are free. In this particular case, actually, it's free the whole time. What they'll do is they'll tell them, if we need your space, you're here for 2 hours. If we need your space, we're going to take your car and we're going to move it to one of the off-site staff parking locations, and we'll retrieve it from there. So will always remain free. But what Stanford, because they probably won't be full when they first open, they will be monitoring. You know, fortunately, it's not going to be full. So they'll be monitoring this, and as their business continues to grow, they will adjust. Because the one thing that they don't want to do is have their patients be dissatisfied, wait in their cars, be late for an appointment, wait for their cars when they have to get them. So they will continue to up their staffing, their valet staffing as required, and adjust. They do this all the time.
I guess my concern is also,
Yeah.
well, you know, what if the valets, because they're trying to get people in and out quickly, don't stop to give people those directions? Or what if you hire, you know, Joe Smith, and he just happens to not want to talk to anybody, and he never, you know, whatever. I mean, lots of
loses
things
his
can happen.
job.
Well, to some extent, he's right. What happens is again, Stanford is all about their patients. And in fact, in this location, because they're trying to make an inroad, they will make sure. So if people start to complain about the valet service, then they continue to tweak it. And I would assume, and I'm not exactly sure how we address the other parts.
Community,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is requiring planning commission approval, and it's part of this transportation report needs to be done. And so that will provide direction and advisement as to how to address all sorts of concerns, not only the concerns that BPAC has brought, but numerous questions that staff has raised and the planning commission has raised. So as part of that so I'm not really answering this in order because I was planning to, because I'm addressing your questions, so we might have to take a step back again later. They're required to do a transportation report, which I'm supposed to receive this week, which is why you're not seeing it. Staff will review that and provide questions and feedback on that before it's finalized. And it's also going to be peer reviewed by another transportation consultant. So there's going to be a lot of review, like how is this going to work? What are the impacts? How can we best address these things? Because it's going to planning commission, there's what's called conditions of approval. So any major project you see has conditions of approval that can range from the hours of operation to the types of activities. They're asking you to do an activity in the public right of way. So there's going to be conditions of approval, and there's also going to be encroachment agreements. And so as part of this, it has to work, right? So they have to meet their conditions in order to continue operating. And there can be different mechanisms put in place which haven't been finalized for that. But for example, LaPorte Elementary, which went into 63rd Street, I believe, as a result of their transportation review, what was decided is that every 6 months until they've reached maximum capacity, there will be an assessment done on their transportation and how well it's working. So there's opportunities to see, okay, this is what we said we were going to do. Like, this is what you said you were going to do. This is how we thought it would, everything would be mitigated. Is that happening or not? Is that actually functionally working how we thought it would or not? So there's benchmarks, there's checkpoints to go in, and then it can be tweaked accordingly to make sure that it's actually flowing as it's supposed to.
I guess as you're saying this, I just am a little nervous because I believe that when, I wasn't here then, but I was told that when FedEx went in on Overland, they said, oh, we're going to go on Horton Street. And I had 2 FedEx trucks running me off the road on Horton this morning as I was commuting in. And that's a very common occurrence because and I've been told that there's no way, all we can do is like spend money on traffic improvements that will make it unpleasant for them so they don't do it. So, and I'm not saying.
Is it part of their use permit not to use Horton
I
Street?
don't know.
It's part of their use permit not to use 64th Street.
I don't think that they had to
63rd
have a
Street,
use
I know
permit.
that.
I'm pretty sure that they did not have to have a use permit.
I mean, I
but
think
can
this
look
is a
into
harder
that.
thing to control, because it's, you know, FedEx, it's the trucks that belong to the company, these are private automobiles, and the center can't control what people do once they leave the property. They could do what, you know, whatever random thing
That's
they want.
Admittedly.
You know, all they can do is their best to try to direct people. But I guess I'm just hoping that there are some conditions of approval or something where we can assess, and if people are ending up super confused, or they are ending up wandering the neighborhood and having, you know, conflicts, which may not happen, like I said, that we could come back and say, okay, well, this isn't working the way we thought it would. Is there something else we can try here?
Right.
To mitigate this.
And how I described that, which may or may not have been clear, about LaPorte having these like, okay, they're expanding, they're gonna reach full capacity, not immediately, we're gonna check in every 6 months until that happens. Does that sound like an approach that would probably, also can be triggered at staff concern, hey, we're noticing there's problems, right?
Yeah.
They have to meet expectations. Obviously, if, like you said, if someone leaves the site and they do something 4 blocks away, that could happen to anybody anywhere in the
Right.
city. But what we're really focusing on is how is the flow in and out, how is it working on Hollis? Is the valet service less impactful than it would be if they didn't have the valet service, or if it functioned in a different way?
Yeah.
So those are the things that we can look at and tweak and address moving forward. Does that seem to?
Well, I think the 6-month review sounds good, but I also do, and you know, maybe we can't address this, but I do have a concern about 6 years from now, when there's different management of the building, and they decide, or they get complaints from the patients that this is too hard, we really want to ride on the bike boulevards to get out of here, you know, I mean, they won't put it that way, but.
It's not illegal for them to drive on the bike
No,
boulevard.
it isn't, but it is the wish, I think, of the city not to have additional traffic specifically directed on those bike
Well,
boulevards, you know,
when-
to sort of try to
When we
avoid
have
that.
level 4 and level 5
They won't want to drive on there, is what you're
bike
saying.
traffic calming, then they won't be able to drive on those bike boulevards.
That's a good point. I'm hopeful that we will have that. But, you know, I live on Doyle Street,
Right.
and we already do get a certain number of confused people driving up our street. We get even more confused when they get to 55th and the street ends, and they don't really know where they
what
are.
am I gonna do now?
They gotta
Yeah. Well, they have to turn left, but they don't know where they're going. We get bicyclists like that,
They're gonna
too.
wander, they're gonna wander in
It's
open.
not a huge, you know, it isn't a huge problem. I live on a very narrow street that people walk across all the time. There's a cafe there. And, you know, I wouldn't want people driving fast on this. You know, it may, like I said, it may be a non-issue, but that is my wish, is that there's some mechanism built in where if there are concerns at any point, that there's some community interaction, that we can have a channel to the building management to come back and sit down with us and say, okay, here's what's not working, how can we tweak it and fix it?
And that is something that occasionally happens. I'm always like, oh, I never like it when it happens, but sometimes it does happen, where you have to go back to someone and say, hey, you have conditions of approval, here is this expectation, it's conditioned for you to operate that you need to do X, Y, and Z. We understand you're doing X, we've got complaints that Y and Z aren't happening. What's going on from your side? Are you aware of these conditions? What needs to happen for this to happen, like continue going forward? And we do work with people years later on conditions of approval.
Okay.
We've done code enforcement on it. I get to do that. So it absolutely happens.
Okay.
And that's one of the many things that staff is here for, is to make sure that the conditions aren't just words on a piece of paper, but there's something that comes back and is used later on, ongoing, indefinitely.
Well, I think the key is to have the words on paper, because there's a couple of times, like the 55th Street right-of-way
Right.
easement, there were verbal agreements, but not anything written down. So I guess that would be the key thing, is to include
Right.
sort of
Some sort of
make sure-
mechanism in writing.
Yeah, just
Right.
make sure the conditions of approval include, you know, a continued interface if things don't
Mhm.
work out as it is expected they will.
So some sort of mechanism, like as you said, for ongoing and addressing things as needed.
If needed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, it may be a complete non-issue. I hope it's a non-issue, but just
Don't we all?
in case.
Okay,
yeah.
do we have,
Yeah,
oh, go
so
ahead.
I have a question about, a concern about traffic coming off the freeway, so going east on Powell and then turning onto Hollis. Even now, there are backups there because the left turn lane isn't long enough for the number of cars that are turning there. So are there any other traffic control mechanisms that anybody has in mind for that particular intersection? And I guess I have a general concern all the way up and down Powell that there'll be more backups, traffic jams and backups.
Well, that'll keep people from going 60 miles an hour over the,
Well, that's
over the
true.
tracks.
That's true.
If there's a
But if-
lane of
But if
cars
you have to go
turning
home,
way
that's your only way to get home.
So
well, then you can use the right lane.
the use itself has a condition of approval. Like, they are allowed to go in there and do this use. They're allowed to do medical office uses. That's not something, the use of itself to operate this building as a medical office building is not something that's up for debate. They have that approval. So that's not something that we can change at this point. And that's the overall driver of people going there, right? What can be addressed is this valet service the best way to facilitate traffic going in and out? Is it the best way to handle things? And that's what our traffic reports are addressing and are looking at the intersections closest for impact. So they are looking at that intersection like you suggested of Hollis and Powell at 59th and Hollis.
But I'm thinking that's of people arriving who have not yet met the valets.
Yes, yes. So we are, so to see how if that valet is going to accommodate, we're looking at what directions do we anticipate people to come from, right? Like, so, because if you, like you're saying, this is just an example because I have not seen the traffic report yet, right? I just saw a preliminary one months ago. For example, if everybody is coming from the freeway and backing up on Palace, not Palace, that's the new intersection, backing up on Powell, trying to turn onto Hollis, that's going to have, the valet might have to have a faster turnover or have a longer, you know, queue line so that more people on that left-hand turn can get into queue. Does that make sense?
So I wasn't thinking that it was something the valet could manage. I was thinking just having any,
Like the
not
traffic
that they're
signals,
backing up because the valets are backed up.
Right.
That they're backing up because they're
The
too many
volume.
cars. The
Okay.
volume.
So we're getting a little bit out here in terms of the planning part. But when the general plan was done, there was a general traffic kind of assessment done for the whole city. And all new projects had to meet certain benchmarks or else be mitigated. And so the traffic that's being generated as part of this is considered under that umbrella. It doesn't need to have its own specific review. And that goes back to having the use already approved. So far from what I saw for preliminary stuff in that previous draft traffic report, not finalized, is it did not look like there was a huge impact to that intersection with left-hand turns. There was an increase, absolutely, but not something that was going to be pushing traffic up onto the bridge or that was going to be hugely noticeable.
And it is specific to our building. And prior,
Right.
even then, there was, when the building was entitled, it was entitled with a certain number of spaces for that space. And there was a traffic report conducted then. We had our traffic engineer look at, use the previous data, compare it to current data, compare it also then to projected, what's the word, where people come from?
Projected- catchment areas.
Catchment areas,
Oh.
but this is, of course, is purely speculative. I will tell you that at least, I think there are 3 medical groups that actually have been, are partnering with Stanford to provide services there. And they are all East Bay medical groups, some of them actually fairly close towards the hills. So we're not going to get everybody coming off the freeway, you know, and I think that's one of the things that we need to understand. You know, one of the interesting things may be actually people coming south on Hollis, which I actually didn't even think about. You know, what are they going to do? Then they've got a little challenge. Is,
Right.
oh, the valet's over there. Now what am I going to do?
Yeah,
So they'll have to
the
talk
ones that
about that.
can't turn left.
Yeah. So there are other issues that we'll need to address in the directions that are given to, you know, patients of if you're coming south on Hollis, here's what you do.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So
So
Yeah.
first, Ken, I'm sorry.
You could always tell the traffic that's coming down Powell to turn right on her up and go by the transit center and then turn right, like the Amtrak bus.
Oh yeah.
so we're having, like I said, their transportation report is going to look at that. Staff will review it, provide questions and feedback, and then it'll also be going for a peer review by another transportation consultant to make sure that all the bases are covered, that they're looking at these different options and what would be the least impactful ways to address concerns that you've brought, as well as I said before, planning commission and staff. So local traffic, my understanding is that local traffic is anticipated more than just freeway traffic. And part of the reason we're looking at trying to make the pedestrian and bicycle facilities accessible and then providing the transportation information is so that people will use methods other than valet. When they do come out with these estimates for turnover at the valet, for the number of number of people turning and all this, it's worst case scenario. So if everybody were to come by car, what would that look like? And we all know that's not the reality of the situation. So just to kind of clarify how we look at that, and the numbers sometimes look a little bit scary because it's like, oh my gosh, look at the increase, but that's if every single person were to come by car, which just doesn't happen.
And there will be shuttles?
There's not going to, at this point, Stanford's not proposing their own shuttle service. There's Emery go around just up the block and across the street.
Okay.
You know?
So I'm wondering if there's a way that like directional signage can be included part of the.
That's one of the questions that we've forwarded along.
Because that could be helpful for like a car to like, if we want them to take a certain route, then we can direct them that way.
Where would the directional signage be?
The first one I'm imagining is like no left turn on Hollis when you're getting out of the garage, right across, and then wherever you want the cars to go.
They're not driving their own cars.
There's always that. If there always
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. In regards to that question, then I want to make sure you get to ask your full question.
Okay.
Can you see here where I have the cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where the valet pickup will be. And there's different there's different ways we can handle making sure that people don't make U-turns there, and that will be addressed in the traffic report. Do we need to have like the flexi bollards in the middle of the street, for example, right? There's different things. Signage, in my personal experience, does not tend to be the most effective way because people see a million signs and they're trying to look at the merging. But we'll see what the traffic consultants say. Going north here, we're not going to prevent left-hand turns because that's how we're going to direct people to get back to the freeway. So does that answer your question
It does.
a little bit?
Okay. In terms of like rerouting them to the freeway, but it sounds as though that's not going to be the highest impact of like people coming from the freeway. You guys are anticipating more.
Well, there's always a question, and this I don't know, is people may or may not come from one direction and may not lead towards that same direction, and that's part of the thing that transportation looks at, right?
Okay.
So that's something that I don't know yet.
That directional signage is outside of our scope of work as well. That's also.
Right, but one of the things that was brought up, for example, was should there be a sign at 59th and Hollis saying left turn to get back to freeway, and then one at Pelledu and 59th saying left turn to get back to freeway, something like that. So off-site directional signage to help get people back to the freeway. I don't know what the results of the reports will be and if they'll think that that will be helpful or not.
Okay.
There's another question.
Yeah. So you get these valet parking spaces here, and you're taking away basically about 80% of what they had in front of that little burger place there. Are they going to be regular parking after 7 p.m.?
Yes, absolutely.
Just want to make sure, because I think that place is open till 9 or 9:30.
We actually, we reached out to the owner.
Yeah. Did you ask them to turn the music down? Sorry.
He was really excited
The owner
about of Bureau.
Yeah.
And of course, he also owns Summer.
So also,
They're really excited about more people coming. So as far as the loss of street parking, you know, in the end, that's not a big deal. It did not turn out to be.
You can park in your valet space and come out and go have lunch and then come back and get your car.
But your car may not be there if you take too long. It'll be somewhere else.
Or just do it for lunch. You mean, just park there, have your car taken care of, have lunch, come back.
No, I
pick up
think you
your car.
probably need an actual appointment in order to park.
You
correct?
do. Yes, you're absolutely correct.
so in regards to your note about will people be able to park there afterwards, that's part of the site design consideration about how to make that clear. But also when we were talking before about conditions of approval, that would be an example of something that would be in conditions of approval, that you have to, as a rule for being able to use this part of the public right-of-way, this has to be made available after 7 p.m., for example.
Yeah, because basically they're privatizing legal on-street parking.
Exactly.
Correct.
So that's why.
Which I'm normally not in favor of.
So how should I put this? Any concerns that you have raised in regards to private use of the public right-of-way, I would have been say would probably be echoed tenfold outside of this room easily. So you're not the only ones with that concern.
We've been put through the ringer.
Are we
Your
done
project
with
has
this
been
item
looked
or
at
not?
diligently.
Yes, I'm sorry. I would expect no less.
Yeah, are we done with this item? We don't have anything that we're gonna, any
I
motions we're gonna
appreciate
make or
the
anything like that?
answers.
No, absolutely.
to
You
the
know, and
questions.
I
That's
apologize
very
for that
nice.
mistake.
That's
That's
okay,
like,
that's all right. You
I'd
clarified.
like to describe next steps of the project real quick, if we have a few moments, just so you can.
I guess so.
Okay, well, I want to make sure.
I'm not gonna stay till 8, but you can.
I'll keep it quick if you don't have any questions. So, last time you saw the full project proposal at that time, which included the valet service, which included a canopy, and there were also signs on the building. Because of the length of the duration it's taking for the transportation reviews to be complete, understandably, if everything we're talking about is a lot to consider. The canopy is going to be moved separately to Planning Commission as a standalone item, along with signage that's on the building itself. And so that's going to be going to the May Planning Commission meeting. Anything to do with the actual valet service, so the valet service itself and signs in the public right-of-way to direct valet, that is these are all tentative. Of course, everything still has to move forward. But so the canopy and building signs, May Planning Commission, and then the valet and valet signs in the public right-of-way, that would be June Planning Commission. We don't normally split projects like that, but in this case, because of how this is being done, it kind of has to be, and in some ways it makes it easier for people to very focused and review certain aspects of the project. So I just want to make you aware of that. As part of that review, also another thing that's holding up the valet part, not holding up, but just taking, okay, holding up maybe, on your perspective. There's drainage considerations. So the plans that you saw where there might be lots of banisters and barriers and steps and all this, that might be completely revised by the time it gets to Planning Commission. And because of the way that schedule falls with this, that will not have the opportunity to come back to BPAC before that happens. So functionally, the idea is the same, but to meet the drainage requirements in ADA, it might look very different. And I just want to make you aware of that.
it'll probably look better. Actually, we're really excited about the change. I think it'll look better, much more welcoming. You won't have a number of rails and things that actually create visual barriers. So that was one of the concerns, was how much are you creating a barrier? Yeah, the phases actually are fairly simple. From the sidewalk, the outside edge of the sidewalk in, phase 1, outside edge of the sidewalk out, phase 2.
Right. So do you have any questions about that, or? Okay, I just wanted to make that clear because that's different than what we talked about, and don't want you to be surprised when we come back next time and we're like, that's not what we talked about. So, all right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Sarah has my contact information if any of you want to have further clarification. It'd be best going through, I think, Sarah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, any questions about this project, definitely direct to me, and I can help you talk to any other staff that's applicable, but I am the project planner for this.
And I'm going to actually update this, and I'll email it to Sarah so
Great.
you get a correct version.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
And thank you for bumping me up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
and then we're going to item 4.1, Bike to Work Day, final plan.
Oh, boy.
The final plan.
Final plan. So, you all hopefully have seen that there's little half-sheet flyers. I think there's some more over there. It's just Emeryville locations, and one of the things to note.
We're not doing the frontage road this year.
So, one of the things to note on there, toward the bottom, it says, join us for a ribbon cutting ceremony. So the new Christie Avenue Bay Trail Extension grand opening is going to be that day. It's going to be at 9:30 instead of it being right during Bike to Work Day. It'll give people that maybe were involved in Bike to Work Day and want to come for that to come, like the Bay Trail people and I don't know, Bike East Bay. Anybody who wants to make it maybe after Bike to Work Day can get there. So instead of being at Frontage and Powell like we've been for I don't know how many years, it's being moved to Christie and Shell Mound to celebrate that grand opening. And Trader Joe's is donating some stuff. We're purchasing a bike blender to make smoothies, and hopefully it's going to arrive in time and all that's going to work out.
It's too early for drinks, huh?
Probably. It wants to start really, 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 really early.
Bloody Marys?
Yeah. And Four Points Sheraton is going to help out with storing, stashing some of our stuff overnight. Bay Street is going to help out and donate some stuff, some giveaway stuff, and they're going to be there. So it's going to really change that location. And I'm thinking if, I know it's going to increase the number of people that are working that station, but I'm hoping it's going to also increase the number of cyclists that come by. We'll see. I know there's going to be info going out through the Bay Trail people, and Bike East Bay, I think, sent out an announcement about grand opening events.
So
that
could
day.
you kind of show the map, right, where that'll be? 'Cause it seems like the space is a little bit tight to accommodate a lot of people.
Want me to do it?
Actually-
I'm wondering exactly where.
Sarah is at lightning speed compared to me, so I'm going to let her do that.
So this is on the satellite view. Here we have Powell Street on the north here. We have our new Christie Avenue Trail right here. And the hotel's under construction over here. Right at this corner where we have that new kind of, it's the widest part
Okay.
in the intersection. This is where we're going to have the opening ceremony and the station, the Energizer station. So you should come by and get energized.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually, can we bring this guy over there? There's actually plenty of space. So that's
Okay.
one
No,
of the,
that is a good spot.
yeah. So that's one of the things that's going to be going on that day. And we've got, the other stations are in the same locations, but, yeah, so this is probably early, oh, wow. This is before changes were made.
Actually, yeah, let me go back out because
Yeah, we have it.
we had
I
a-
mean, Google did have it.
I think it was from this direction. Maybe they redid it.
Yeah, there's the
Here we go.
construction.
It's still not finished in this photo because there's the,
Yeah, I've used that left turn.
the green
that
striping.
little cycle of left turn. It's
How'd
kinda
you like
nice.
it?
I like,
It's okay.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't go anywhere I want to go, but it's
Is
okay.
it, yeah, I know, right? Is it a little nerve wracking with traffic or does it?
No, I'm quite used to riding in traffic.
Okay, okay.
I prefer to be as visible as possible.
Yeah, so you can see there's some,
I think we should
Space
call
there.
this the Do Not Enter Energizer Station.
Why would you say that?
that's a great idea.
Oh,
Just
gosh.
Do you
Really
enter
well,
one way?
consists very well for me.
Yeah, the arrows all point away.
So, all right, well, I don't want to take too much
Okay.
time with this item. If you have any other questions, just throw them out there. But the other three stations are not changing in terms of the location. One change is that at Adeline 46th, in the last 3 years, Rebel Lights has brought out, I think, their whole office to help us out. There are 8 people, and they're not going to be working with us. I think Google invited them to do something on Bike to Work Days. So it's going to be Kate, David's girlfriend Cynthia, and Sharif, one of our new staff people here in IT, who's a cyclist.
Thank you all.
Yeah. So we've got the Pixar and Arizmendi pastries. Bacana Bakery sadly is closed, so they won't be providing us anything. But at the Greenway and 65th, where Laura staffs, Cliff Bar again is going to be coming out with their blender, doing their smoothie thing, and having Cliff Bars. And we'll have Sarah's going to be peddling pastries from Pixar.
Yay. Say
Is
that
that
5 times
alliteration?
fast.
Right?
Peddling pastries from Pixar.
To
Positively.
Greenway at 65th, and also down to Shell Mound
Thank you.
at Christie. And then Kim from Community Services is going to stop by Arizmendi and bring it over to 40th. David's going to bring his over there to Adeline. We're again getting some supplies from Missing Link. They're going to donate some stuff. We have some stuff left from last year. I'm thinking we may have a fewer things that we're giving out, but we're having something new. If you want to take one of these and pass it around, these are given out. If you know people whose cars you want to put these on, you can take more than
Just walk down the
one.
street and throw them on. Right?
They go on the inside. They're clings. They're not stickers. And the
Like
idea.
next to my oil change mileage thing.
Yeah, right, exactly. The idea is to remind people to watch for bikes when they open their car door. And if we had the time and I had the bandwidth to deal with designing the back of it, and probably spending a little more money, you can have instructions like, open the door with your right hand, which forces you to look back, which is a really good suggestion. But in any case, we're gonna have these at the tables, and there will be instructions going to the tables that explain. So for the volunteers that are working at the tables, we can pass that around. For volunteers that are working at the tables, they can explain what that's about. So, yeah. And let's see, what else? So far, we're definitely within budget, but we may go a little over what I'm expecting with the smoothies down at Frontage and, down at Shell Mountain Christie, so we'll see.
Is that being purchased from Rockford Light?
Yes, exactly.
Those are expensive.
I'm not, no, our funds for Bike to Work Day are not paying
Oh,
for the
good, because
blender.
that would really.
But our funds are gonna pay for the expensive berries and stuff that go in
Are you
there.
going organic or something?
No, actually, we're gonna get them from those guys on the street corners, I'm just kidding.
Up in Richmond, right? Right at
Yeah.
Emeryville, right?
Yeah.
I know where you
That's like where I bike there every day. So weird that you mentioned that. Anyway, so let's see, I think, I'm just trying to think, I think
Can
that's
I
it.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Are we still gonna get the cute little reflective stickers that
Yes.
we've had? I really like having those to give to kids. Kids
Yeah.
love stickers.
We're getting
We get a lot
those,
of
we're getting,
kids.
I changed it, I think I ordered one new thing, maybe like a butterfly or something like
Okay,
that.
cool.
So we're definitely getting those, and we're getting patch kits, pant straps, tire levers. We're not getting the maps at your suggestion, so we'll see. I think I have a few from last year, so maybe we'll have a couple at each table or something. We'll see how that goes. PedEx is helping, Pedal Express is helping us again this year.
Yeah.
Moving stuff around. There's 4 bike trailers and 4 or 5 people going over to stuff bags on Friday. Miguel, me, Laura.
4 o'clock, right?
It starts at 4. We're gonna
This
leave-
Friday, right?
Yeah, we're gonna leave here maybe 3-ish or something. And one of the trailers is gonna be waiting for us there, and we're gonna take it back with us. So we got some better trailers this year. Remember that one that kept falling apart? You didn't have to haul it, so you might not remember it. Let's see. Any other questions? I think.
I just want to make the comment that I love that Emeryville now, just as a matter of course, does this car-free bike to work day, and it is a little more work, but we just appreciate everybody's efforts, and especially you, Marcy, and marshaling it all.
Yeah, it's a huge coordination thing to try and put all these little pieces together, but obviously I couldn't do it if people weren't willing to, volunteer their time and their trailers. So at least we have one here, we have a couple bikes here, and it's amazing that it
Yeah, we've been
actually
doing this
works.
for several years now, so I'm
Yeah,
proud of
yeah.
us.
Yeah,
for doing
people
that.
are enthusiastic about the event.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to sell, at least. Okay, so did anybody have any other questions about that?
So can I ask just a logistical question? So there was some question of getting the stuff delivered in the morning, and so the one at 65th, somebody from Pedal Express or something will come out in the morning with that.
Yeah, so that's the other thing I'm coordinating in order to do this all like car-free, is if I can't get people to do it at the time it needs to be done, I'm asking Pedal Express.
Yeah,
Can you
they've
do
done that. They've
thing?
done it in the morning before.
Yes, well, they've done it in the morning before, but there was a year where they were extremely late, and people were standing around, at that corner, and bicyclists were coming by, and, so I don't want that to happen again.
Right.
So I'm trying to minimize what they do the morning of, because if that happens again, I think, so I think
Is that it for this one?
that's all for Bike to Work Day, unless there's any other.
Okay, so Bay Street on-street bike parking installed.
So this was Ken's item.
I spent a long time trying to find a law in another city, and I wasn't able to do it, and I spent a lot of time looking for it. I just wasn't
What
able to
kind of
find
law?
What law?
She had asked me to do some research to see if I could find how it would be legal in other cities where it's permitted.
To do what?
To find a law on the books where it already existed.
Where what
Like,
exists though?
Right, that you want to, where bike parking is allowed to be applied on the city poles.
Oh, okay, so there's two different things.
That's
This
the next
one-
item.
There's two different items here. One is for Bay Street on street bike parking, and because their poles are on private property, it's a different, that's a different question than locking up on poles on public property.
Like, so the first item is
Bay Street.
Bike, like a bike corral on the street.
I'm not sure what was in mind. I think Ken brought this up, but I do want to mention, and can you pass that around, please? I do want to mention that Bay Street, I contacted them today in anticipation of this item about bike parking there, just in general, and they told me that they have planned 2 bike stations where there's going to be more. So this is on the Ohlone Way, Ohlone Street there, next to the creek. They're going to take out that bench and they're going to put in another wave rack. And they're also going to put in a fix-it station. So I just want to say that before anybody mentions this, I said, did you know that you could park more bikes in the same amount of space by using inverted U's? So they're hopefully they said they're gonna invite me to come walk the space with them because they're gonna put another station in further down on Kennedy at the corner of Bay Street. But after they do an expansion thing that they're doing that, I don't know if Sarah knows
But
about.
they are not taking the bike lockers, right?
They're not taking bike lockers at this time. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but they are doing these other things. So they're putting in a skateboard station, and they're putting
Those kids
in.
don't spend money? Oh, sorry.
They might come with family members.
They're not all kids, my wife.
They're welcoming skateboarders. She said that that's a thing for them now.
Okay.
So they're gonna have 2 of these ultimately, and a couple of stations. So the other station might look different than this one's gonna look, but.
Can I just say, I mean, that's very nice, but I feel like we have sort of the city and the BPAC have said, we need this, and they're like, look, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it's great. Anytime they put in more bike parking, I'm all for it, and they've added a lot of bike parking spaces, and that's great.
So this is, I thought we were gonna talk about on-street
Yeah.
bike parking.
Well, you know what? I wanted to report to you guys that
On the street, not in the street, right?
I'm talking about taking away parking spots for a bike corral, the way we
Right.
do in other parts of the
So
city.
that I did not discuss with them. I just let them know that this was on the agenda. I didn't call them to discuss this item per se, but I did want to find out what their approach was when somebody does lock up on an existing pole, which we already knew. They, put the map on and give you a notice saying you could park your bike over there on that thing over there. And also that they're planning this. So that's what they told me about. But now this item is on the agenda, and so we can talk more about exactly what this issue is.
Well, I just
Here.
wanted to report that I ran into there's a new manager at Bay Street. I've heard
Jen,
very good things
yeah.
about her, although I think she is the one who said no to the bike lockers. And she said, well, we'll
She
do
did.
them when we do this expansion, when the 53rd Street
I'm
Bridge
sorry.
lands. She,
Do you want the agenda back?
Yeah.
she said to me that maybe we can put in bike lockers when the 53rd Street Bridge lands, but that is going to be God knows how many years. And I said, there's a real need now. There's not enough bike parking. And she was very friendly, and she said, come walk with me, which I've not taken her up on yet, and, let's talk about where we can put in more bike parking.
We did
But
that once.
Well, see, that's the thing.
That was
I-
before her.
Okay.
I went out and spent my time walking to help figure out the locations for the bike lockers, and I just don't want to spend a lot of time with them if they're going to just change their plans all the time.
Right.
But I did mention to her that if they were not going to do it, that the city might just take away parking spots and put it on the street. And she said, oh, no, you can't do that because we pay tax. I said, no, you have an easement, but the city owns the street and you own the sidewalks. And she disagreed, so I don't know what the truth is.
You know what, the city made agreement with them to allow them to collect the parking money from the street parking.
But the street parking belongs to the city, right?
Yeah, the street parking goes, so we're allowing them to collect the revenue from that parking.
She said they pay property taxes on the physical.
So there's an agreement existing with the city to do that, and I think we need to take a look at it.
Right, so I want to understand a little bit about, like, is this something that you're suggesting to Bay Street as an approach, or just want to?
No, you know, my suggestion, and I actually think this might have been my agenda item, because my suggestion was that if they were not willing to, if they're sort of, you know, the city put a lot of time and energy into this, trying to do something nice for them, and said yes, 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 and then.
And by this you mean the
bike
bike
blockers.
blockers? Okay.
And they have put in more bike parking, but, you know, it's a very inexpensive way to accommodate lots more people, and they have done it very slowly and had kind of a regressive attitude compared to the rest of Emeryville, which is pretty progressive about bike parking. And so my thought was, could the city just be proactive and say, well, you're moving too slow for me, we're going to create a bike corral here. Now, I think there's some issues with that because the merchant is supposed to maintain it, and, you know, if the merchant's, you know, Bay Street doesn't agree, that might be an issue. But I think that's what this agenda item was about, is could we just,
Right.
could the city
Actually,
install bike
on the
parking?
street, and you know,
Yeah,
what
take a
makes
parking,
sense.
couple
No,
of
I know, it
parking
should, yeah, it
spots.
should be one at each end of the thing, you know?
So I just
See,
want
my
to take
problem
it,
with it is if I go into PJ, Chang's, I want to park my bike in front of the store, I
Right.
don't want to park it across the way and down the block.
Right, right. I think that is a big issue.
so I want to just take that discussion back a little bit, because that is probably where that entire project is a planned unit development that has its own conditions of approval.
Right,
And a lot of those are in regards to parking, and there's special agreements, as kind of discussed here, about public right-of-way and the privateness of that street, and like revenues and all this kind of stuff. I don't think the revenues part is really what plays into this scenario. What does play into this scenario is typically bike corrals are approved using a sidewalk cafe permit, which is a little confusingly titled, but it's like one of the options, and I process those. How that would apply in this situation, I don't know, because of how the street is operated there, so that's something I'd have to look into. But it is something you have to have the adjacent property owner's signature on in order to process it. So the city can't just be like, you have to do this on your property. The conditions of approval already dictate what they have to do, right?
Well,
So it's a little bit more complicated than if it were like along Adeline Street or something like that, right? Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, it's something that we can't say, you have to do this.
yeah,
So-
I guess I just wonder if there's, and maybe this is not the way, because I know the usual venue is that a merchant comes to the city and says, I want this, and I'm willing to do the maintenance on it. And I guess, and I hadn't thought of that when I brought the item up, if this was my item, but my feeling is there a way, Bay Street is a huge part of Emeryville, it's a huge destination. Emeryville, I think, has an interest in promoting alternative transportation. There's pretty good public transportation there. There's someday soon will be better walking when there's the bridge. But, and it's somewhat bikeable. It's not horrible to bike there, but there's not enough bike parking. And especially near the movie theater, I would say. But, you know, is there a way that the city, and we as a BPAC or the city itself, is there any leverage? Is there any way that we can, you know, sort of apply a little pressure here to get something done?
Has BPAC invited Jen or Bay Street?
It would be great to
recently?
have her here to talk to us about it. Yeah.
I mean, that's not a push in that way, but, you know,
No, I'm surprised she's not, someone from Bay Street isn't here tonight, actually.
were they sent the agenda specifically?
No.
No.
She attends a lot
No,
of
this is the
meetings,
first
too.
time it's been on the agenda. I wasn't sure what people had in mind, or,
Okay.
you know, so
Yeah, it would be
once
nice
now
to
that
have
we,
them.
so do you want to, you know, what do you want to,
If they
at
would
the
be,
last meeting, you didn't ask for Bay Street to come to the meeting or anything
Okay.
like that, so I don't really know exactly what you do have in mind. I don't think she would
She'd
be
like bike
opposed to
corrals
come.
on Bay Street itself.
I think having a couple bike corrals would,
I think that's one idea, but I also think Ken's point
about,
is really
I
important.
think it is.
That bicyclists don't want to go park down there and then walk back. I mean, we're used to, you know, there's a pole, you walk up to it, you walk into the store. And I think I don't think their management there has much experience bicycling at all. When I mentioned using the inverted U's instead of the wave racks, that was kind of like the first I heard about it. She gave this job of setting up bike stations by parking to their security manager, who she thought that would be really good for the security manager to do, to
What, to have
get
somebody with something
acquainted
to
with.
do?
So, she probably just like went to a catalog or went online and, came up with something that looked good, and they thought, oh, they'll be happy. So they don't know. If there's some specific, like, a good way to frame it for Bay Street, Madison Marquette manager to come here. I don't know, Jen or Wendell or
Well,
who would
Jen's,
come.
she does seem more community oriented. I know it's been
Mhm.
hard for community members to get an audience with Madison Marquette in the past at times.
Right.
If she's willing to come, I would love to have it.
I think they're really trying. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Well, and I think it's to their advantage too. I mean,
So-
that's the thing, it's a win-win.
So
for the
how do
community
we,
and them.
what do we tell them, that you just want to
Well-
chat with them, or that you have something in mind, or?
Well, I do think that the second proposal, we can kind of merge these two, the second one is everywhere in Emeryville, you can lock to, street, you can use a street pole or I guess parking meter, but I would love to talk to them about allowing bikes to park to meters. I think there's it's a real problem that they don't, and there's a reason why people do it, because they're used to being able to do it everywhere. There's no signage that says you can't, that I am aware of. There's no signage on the poles that says don't park bikes here, and it's standard practice everywhere else. And it makes it seem very unfriendly,
So I'm sorry, I missed this part of the conversation probably. So what
I'm sort
happens,
of going to the next.
so what happens when
Right.
you lock to a parking
They
meter?
So
put a
why
little
don't we
numbers-
finish up on number 4.2?
Well, can we?
What
can
do
we
you
merge
want to
them
do? Do you
together?
want to
They put a little notice
figure out a way to talk
telling
with
you
them?
to
Can I make a
put your
suggestion?
park over
I'm already
there,
gonna meet with her
and
on
then
some
you
other
back.
issues, so
Tell
I'll
them
talk to her
where
about
it's
it.
at.
Okay, and maybe invite her to come
Yeah.
here, maybe next meeting we can put it back on the agenda and have a discussion
Yeah.
with someone
Okay.
present, that would be.
Okay, shall we move on to 4. Or you have a
I think
question?
that when we invite her to have that discussion, that we should come with like images and like ideas of what it could look like, so that we could get them really excited about it. Because like it's one thing to say we want this here, but if they actually see and then we talk about like the benefits of being able to fit like 8 bikes in one car spot, like that's more business for them.
Right.
And so just trying to steer the conversation in that direction, have like some type of images that we can show
Yeah,
her.
it's not like
I have
they're
a-
worried
I have a
about
question.
clutter. They have these tawdry little kiosks all over the place.
So am I trying to convince her to
They're
have
ugly.
bike corrals, or we're trying to convince her to allow bikes to lock up on the poles?
I'd like
We
to
are
see
trying
bike
to
corrals.
convince them in 4.2 to have on-street bike parking installed, on-street, in the street, which
Can-
would be bike corrals.
Okay, so they have to maintain it if we,
Yeah.
okay.
Somebody would.
Well, yeah.
Before we move forward with that, I just want to let you know that I think that I need to go and look at their conditions of approval and see if there's any feasibility issues with that before we ask that of them. I
Well,
just-
next time they want to expand something, you do it.
Okay.
Well, they could
Right?
be willing to.
But, I don't want us to go say, hey, can you do this? And then they come to the city and we say, we have a problem, right? Like,
Right,
let's
right,
make
right.
sure we cross those Ts and dot the Is before that.
Right.
So I'll follow up on
Okay.
that before,
Okay, let's move on to number 4.3, or we're going to be here until 8:30. And I'm not going to be here until 8:30.
So,
Discussion, making it legal to use any street pole to lock bikes. And so is that any street pole? Is that telephone poles? Is that the little square signs that say stop sign, or what?
It's any public pole.
and are you
Well,
including?
PG&E owns the telephone poles
Well, then,
You can
I don't know how you
lock
lock up to a telephone pole anyway,
with
but,
the cable.
okay, well, I guess for purposes of the ordinance, we can only talk about city-owned utilities, right? Or-
Are you talking about parking meters?
Yeah,
Well, there's only a few parking meters,
They're in Bay Street.
and they're all at Bay Street, and they need to have their heads cut off.
Okay, so you know the meters, right?
now, I was told that it's
Talking
allowed
about
in San
meters.
Francisco, but I couldn't find the letter of the law that says so.
You're
Okay,
allowed
so-
to- It's true, in San Francisco, you are allowed to park at
Yeah,
meters.
but I couldn't find the law that Marcy would.
Robert, you don't know anything about that
Okay.
law surrounding what you could park, what you lock up to and all that locally here?
In Emeryville?
Or,
No, it's in-
well, Ken was looking for anywhere.
As
I feel
long
like
as, long as
there's
you're
a lot
not
of
violating the rights of the pedestrians on the sidewalk
Or
or
blocking.
blocking a crosswalk or something
Right,
like that,
yeah,
I don't see a
outside.
problem with it,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
can see if, if people are gonna, because I see them all the time, down on Fourth Street in
Right.
Berkeley, they
So-
put these, they lock their bikes to the railings and
Yeah.
they're sticking out into the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
yeah. But Ken.
And then you got some lady with a walker has to go off the curb.
So Ken, I'm not sure about this item and what exactly it meant unless I might have taken notes wrong at that meeting. Are you thinking it's illegal to lock to certain street poles in the city?
Well, I think we should just specify that it is legal rather than leave it an open question.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you want
So I
I'd
was
like the
looking
city
to-
to pass an ordinance that says, go ahead, park anywhere as long as you're not blocking stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess the question would be, would that ordinance address what's going on at Bay Street? Because that really is the crux of it, I think. I mean, that, you really, right now, you are allowed to park anywhere except for Bay Street is the only place where someone's gonna tell you no.
So then the question you were asking is, can you find a place where it is already passed as an ordinance?
Right.
That is legal?
Right.
Okay.
And then at Bay Street, if that sidewalk is a public right of way, if it's an easement for
The
a public right of way.
sidewalk is not. The
The
public,
street is.
the parking meters belong to the private property owner. The street is the city's.
So
And,
there's-
what
there's
gives
no
them the
reason
right
to
to
decide-
collect fines from expired meters?
That, I cannot tell you. I think that's an unanswered question.
I think
That's
it's
another
the-
question.
In other words, you
Sarah
could
was
probably
talking about.
refuse
I don't know
to
about that.
pay at those meters and probably, they could
I-
sue you in small claims court or
Yeah,
something?
that's another question we'd have to.
Has
maybe
anybody
get-
here gotten a ticket for parking there?
I was riding my bikes.
Yeah, I know, yeah, right. I don't know.
They have
Can
automated
I say-
tickets too, as soon as you expire, you get a ticket
You
immediately.
know,
And
Yeah,
do
that-
they have the right to collect that
I'm
money?
not
I
sure
think the
who-
city allows
I wonder
them
if
to do
Maurice
that.
knows the answer to that.
You know, I think this is probably like, I have once had someone trying to write me a ticket in a private mall parking place in San Francisco where they didn't want you to park if you weren't going to those mall stores. And they were gonna write me a ticket, and I have no idea how enforceable it is, but the security guards were allowed to do that. So I don't know how whether they
I
follow.
mean, they were
So-
encouraged to do that.
Yeah.
Well, the city passes a law that allows certain properties that apply for it to be enforced as if it was in the city.
Yeah. Well, can I say that I think maybe the way to deal with this rather than an ordinance is to wrap it in with the previous item and invite Jen or someone else from Bay Street, preferably Jen.
If it's specifically
No,
about
but
Bay Street,
this
then I
item,
would
Because
this
it
item,
is.
this item here, we're saying is only applying to Bay Street, but, I could see somebody messing with somebody who parks in front of Summer or something like
But
that.
I don't think that would happen. I think don't they actually have
But
some
who's gonna
price?
enforce that though?
Yeah,
Right.
They do have a
Summer
small bike
doesn't-
rack out there.
Yeah, they have a bike rack,
Yeah.
they don't have security guards
Yeah.
who are waiting to do this. I think Bay Street is the only place in town where this is an issue.
That's why I don't shop there.
Well, yeah, I have to say, I agree with Ken that bicyclists like to park right in front of where they're going for security reasons. So you
Or
can
we
keep
want
your
to take our
eyes on the
bikes
bike.
inside.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't think there's many places where you can do that at Bay Street, but I think that's one easy, cheap, free way that they could instantly have way more bike parking and be way more bike friendly. And if we could convince them to change that practice.
Well, if they wouldn't get their mind fixed on a wave rack, they could also just put in a couple of inverted U's every, like 20 feet or something, right?
If they wanted to
but-
put one in between every parking
From,
spot.
from
or
my
something.
conversations with them in the past, and this is before Jen, the gist was, we don't have room. And so I don't know what they're thinking. I'm guessing that there's a little bit of that still going on, and that's why they have this wave rack set off to where they think
Well,
they have room.
It's funny because in front of stores that get a lot of bike traffic, like the Apple store, there's three,
Inverted U's.
well, they're the circles, unfortunately, but I
Circle
think.
things, okay.
Maybe they're in.
But the Apple store
but
probably
anyway,
told them to put them in.
I think so. So there is room when the store owner wants it.
Yeah.
And they're not like this, they're like perpendicular to the sidewalk, so that, the bikes are You know, it's perfectly wide enough, it's not a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's about 12 feet wide.
I don't know
Well-
that the sidewalk is the same width everywhere, but,
So
they
may-
have street furniture, they have benches, there's gotta be room for bike
I
parking.
think, we should bring this conversation up to date because we have a new management
Yeah.
team
yeah.
there.
And maybe they'll have a different approach.
Because there's
Why don't
other.
we invite them up?
Yeah, why don't we
Yeah.
invite them and just have a general discussion of all the bike parking
Yeah.
options and just
Okay.
the fact that we would like to see more bike parking.
Yeah, and
And-
later on here, we'll ask for an agenda item that, ask them to come here and then have just a little 15-minute roundtable on options for bike parking. at
You think
Main Street.
15 minutes?
Well, if
I would say 30 minutes.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, say 30.
I think, well, and I think that we can maybe do a little education,
Go ahead,
because you were
say
saying that they
45.
really don't know much about it. And we could talk to them about things like bicyclists really need to park right in front as
Okay.
much as possible,
Yeah.
and, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, if they're getting out and getting exercise and they're too lazy to walk 40 feet?
You got it. But
Okay, so
also,
if I
it's a
talk to her, then I'll
security
just,
thing.
and if I talk to her and she agrees, then you put it on the next agenda to have her, right?
Does anybody had a bicycle stolen from Bay Street?
Yeah, people that
vandalized?
buy stolen, yeah.
Really?
It's
Yeah,
just
So
somebody had a
security doesn't work
$2,500
there, does
Somebody
it?
had a $2,500 bike stolen from there.
Well, yeah, those are the bikes to steal.
I
I don't
think
wanna
that
steal
it's,
your bike.
Well, of course
it's just
not.
a habit,
My
it's a
bikes.
bicyclist
Okay.
habit to park here. So, yes,
Okay.
thank you. I think that's the best approach, is to ask them to come. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, so.
Okay, so now that was we were kind of blending 4.2 and 4.3. Are we
Yeah.
done with 4.2? We're gonna
Yeah.
ask them to come.
We're done with
and we wanna
4.2
talk with
and
them?
4.3 maybe, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I'm pretty good with it.
I think
Okay.
so, let's
Okay,
have
so
a
we're gonna have
discussion
somebody
with
look at
Bay
that. And so now we're
Okay.
gonna move on to
Street.
4.5. By BPAC meeting scheduled July and September 1st. Mondays are holidays, so it's gonna be either July 8th or September 8th. Shall we ask,
Or,
see if we can get somebody from Bay Street to come and visit us on,
it can be that following week. Let me just mention that the second Monday is another committee
oh, the
meeting.
4th of July, yeah, okay, so it would be July
It'll be the
11th.
11th. And so, anyway, the following Monday is there's another meeting in the space, we would be in council chambers.
Okay.
The other idea possible, since it's a 2-month stretch, is we can move it up. So it's the last Monday of June and the last Monday of August. Or I'm just throwing out ideas.
Why don't we keep them in the month that we're at right now?
We
Okay.
usually have done the second Monday when that's happened.
The Sustainability Committee is a new committee.
Oh, so
And
that's
it
why we
meets the
haven't
second
done it.
Mondays.
If it's okay for us to meet in chambers, I think that's fine.
Unless something else is going on in there, but, okay.
So that would be July 11th,
Yeah.
the
I guess
following
so.
Monday, and then that would be September 12th, the
Okay.
following Monday.
Great.
Okay, so July 11th, we will invite,
And so both of
Yes,
those
yes.
times
Yeah,
we'll
see if
have
we
to meet
can,
someone
we can
else.
have somebody reach out to
Yes.
Bay Street,
I'm gonna do that.
have her come in.
oh,
Okay,
and,
what else do we
wait,
need to
wait,
throw on
before you
our-
move on, sorry, before you move on, Miguel was making a really good point before about bringing in some resources to illustrate lovely
What it
bike
could look like,
parking.
yeah.
Would anybody want to help with that? I'm sure, okay, Miguel?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
can I also say that this would be, I don't know if we're still bringing, if you're still on the NACDO guidelines back and forth, that was one of the things we were trying to have it here.
It is here.
Okay, so that would be a good thing to pull out, because I suspect there's bike parking
Okay.
guidelines in
We
the NACDO guide.
actually have requirements in our planning regulations about bike parking also. So
So
like
we
the
can-
amount, the space that you have to have for each bike space and the type of rack component that has to be there.
Okay.
So like.
Except Bay Street isn't subject to that because they're private property, is that right?
Well, so if you're a new development going in, you're subject to it. But you don't go make everybody else who's already installed bike racks go
But-
redo everything.
But if they're installing new bike racks, are they subject?
If they were required, yes.
Then it would have to be.
If
but
they're not.
If they're doing it
so-
on their own.
Right, so let's say, for example, this is over at East Bay Bridge. If they redid the whole Nordstrom rack area and you reviewed that, those racks, because they were putting in new ones, but it was part of a new project, they had to get new permits for it, all the racks as part of that had to meet our current code.
And they
right?
did a nice job over there.
Yeah, they did pretty good, right?
They're pretty
So,
close to the door.
but if they were just to go in, not have to get new permits, we're just like, we're just gonna put in bike parking. As long as it's not creating a hazard, they don't need building permits, they don't need planning permits just to put in new bike parking, as long as it's not creating a hazard or taking away from other required infrastructure
Well,
like
and Bay
sidewalks or
Street is a
parking.
good example, because that's what they're gonna be doing.
Right.
Right.
So, but it might be nice to show them, here's, if you were a new project, here's the best,
Absolutely.
this is the best practice that we request.
Mhm.
And I think the nice thing about the NACDO guidelines is it has, Miguel had the suggestion to have some images so they could see this is what it looks like, and they have some really pretty pictures of stuff in there. I don't
Okay.
know offhand what the bike parking pictures are like, but they might have some nice bike parking that we could share. That might be one.
There might be more current stuff even than what's in
Yeah.
here that they have
That's
on their
true.
website.
That's true.
Because there's been more,
There's no bike parking in here, it's all about
I remember
movement.
seeing parking in that.
yeah, but it might be
not
online.
It might not.
So if you guys want to work with me, send me stuff, we'll work on stuff, and by the time we have our July 8th meeting, we'll have lots of nifty things to talk about. And I don't know what it's gonna, they just got their delivery today of their new waiver, they're all excited.
And you rained on their parade.
And I was trying not to, so, but they did invite me, like they invited you, to walk around with them and
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe there is
Okay.
no parking.
Okay, so this BPAC meeting schedule stuff, we have to vote on putting items on the agenda, don't we? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, right across the street at the other shopping center, I think it'd be fruitful for us to have the same conversation, because there's really lacking bike parking there.
There really
And
are.
every weekend I go there, I see bikes parked on railings and everywhere that you can.
Regency Center, or
No,
whatever
No,
it's called.
it's the East Bay Bridge Center? Is that
Yeah,
what-
the
I don't know.
You mean
management.
Pell
It's the one with
Plaza?
Marshalls,
Oh,
Pell Street
yes,
Plaza,
Pell
there you
Street
go.
The one where
Um,
Trader Joe's
it's-
is?
Well, they obviously don't care where you park your bike.
Well, I don't like to ride my bike in through that parking lot anyways, because it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But you could offer more parking there, and I feel like
Yeah,
this
really.
conversation would be good for us to have with them too.
If
So you're
they
not singling
come.
someone out?
Let me just say that Jen is local, the people that run this Palace Plaza are not, I don't know exactly where their office is, but they might be interested.
I've tried to outreach on regarding that in the past and did not have much success, but I was also not tenacious.
Yeah, Jenny, or something.
I don't remember. It was about we were in touch regarding something else, and it was like, hey,
So I can
They weren't
inquire with
receptive to
them.
I didn't. Oftentimes, you have to not mention things once.
So,
So in order to have this,
So I
to
wasn't
invite her to this
expecting
meeting,
follow up.
we have to
Send the
vote
invitation,
on
Yeah.
Yeah.
putting it on the agenda.
okay, well, yeah, we're
We
not
can't
at that
just throw
point
things
yet.
on the agenda. You
Right.
guys are allowed to, but we're not allowed to.
That's
Right?
correct, and there's reason for that. But,
Why?
because staff know about projects that are coming up that we need you to get your input on, and I'm sure you wouldn't want us to just go forward with projects without getting your input.
Well, that's
So we
correct.
know when they're coming up, and we need to get your input, so, and you don't know that.
Yeah, but there might be some contentious
And
item we can't
the
get,
fact that
we
you
can't get a
vote-
majority of on a specific meeting.
What?
We need a
Sorry.
majority vote in order to put anything on the agenda.
Right, but the fact that you do that means that your committee agrees, because you're a committee, whereas
We're
individuals.
like the Supreme Court reviewing things.
Whereas individual staff that are working on projects, they know what their timeline is, it's
Yeah,
different.
I know.
Sarah takes a vote with herself every time. before she-
Yeah, I understand. And
So-
most of the time it passes, doesn't it?
Well,
Reluctantly.
no comment.
Yeah. So, okay, and if you want, we can wait till we get down to the future agenda items, or you can vote about that now.
Well, I thought that, oh, I see, that's why we're not voting for, okay, so we're done with that, and now we're going to information items, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay, planning department updates.
Okay, so we went over Stanford. That's like the big project right now with me. The only item at the last planning commission meeting in April was 6-unit condo complex on Doyle between 59th and Powell, so just north of the townhouse. And that was just a study session. There was lots of feedback on that.
So they're tearing down the house that was there and putting in a condo.
Yeah, so it requires both
Like
planning
next
commission
door.
and city council approval
No,
if they
right.
move forward. There's existing units,
Where you
whenever
are.
you
Yeah.
demolish existing residential units, it requires city council approval, and one of the conditions and required findings is that you have to replace any demolished residential units with new ones, at least as many, if not more. So that is what they're proposing, and revisions are required, and we'll see where that goes. So, I cannot think of any other planning commission.
Yeah,
updates.
how many years until Sherwin-Williams is built?
I don't know. They will be coming back with the EIR stuff this summer
So maybe they'll start next year
to
or
planning
something.
commission. I'm not sure off the top of my head what date, June or July.
And then when's the FEIR due? In the fall sometime?
Ooh, I don't keep their schedule in here because it's not my project.
Okay.
I'll be honest about that. But if that's something you want me to bring back next time, I can do an update.
That would be great. Also, do you have an update on the, what's happening next with the traffic calming project on Horton?
We're gonna, we have the
so Peggy
project
doesn't,
sheet.
I'm not the.
Oh, that's
the
part of
public
the
works.
project. Okay, never
Yeah,
mind.
and we're gonna go on to that if
You're good.
Sarah's good, okay. So,
So we're gonna skip number 5.2 and go
Yeah, I just
right on to
want-
5.3.
yeah, I just want to mention that Joel would have been here, except he was injured. He's out with an injury. It was an off-the-job injury,
Okay.
and he is scheduled to be back, and he should be back for our next meeting. But that's why he's not here. He didn't just shine us on. So yeah, we're on to the Public Works project update, and he is here to talk about that, and I have copies of these. So pass one to you. And maybe, I don't know if Robert wants one back there.
Another one? Okay.
So you just want to go through one by one? You have questions off the top, or can we just go through? Or-
No?
I don't have it in front of me, sorry, I just handed them all out. Oh,
These
they
are
have-
extras.
Okay, so I guess we can start with so Bike Boulevard signage installation. Nancy usually goes through this. Nancy couldn't be here this evening either. And she's in the process of completing work on the signage project.
Right.
And bike share,
Can I ask a question about the signage? It says design complete. I'm sorry if it's always said
that's
that.
it's staff action.
Well,
Oh.
but we're talking about the designs that we did a few years ago that we talked about, or are they different designs?
I don't think she changed the designs.
Okay.
Is that more of the content that we went through and we?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what that refers to, what
gonna
directional
be on the
stuff
side?
The
and
content, the
mileage.
mileage
and-
distances and
Okay.
making sure it's consistent.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any big
I don't
changes from
think
what we
so.
saw.
And so bike share, first three sites chosen, Emeryville, permitting to begin, you can read what it says there. But I wanted to let everybody know that in our lobby, we have a map up on an easel and comment cards for people. It really is just about the first three stations, and then we'll have eventually 10. So, it's not likely there's going to be much change to those three, but certainly it's available for anybody to make comments about that. And as Nancy mentions here, the sponsor is supposed to be announced soon, this month. We talked about the Christie Avenue Bay Trail,
Right.
the opening ceremony, the Greenway crossings.
These are
That's
65, 66, 67.
Exactly.
Can I,
Nothing about yield signs?
no, I think we're going way beyond that. It's rapid flashing beacons, bike
How does
sensors.
that stop people?
Because it's those things and it's the hawk signal.
How does
thing,
that
right?
stop people?
Well, it flashes when someone's
Does that
there.
mean that
They
the
have
car
to-
has to stop?
Yeah.
Then there has to be a stop sign.
I don't know.
Because the cyclist still doesn't have the right of way, do they?
I think they do. I think that's the idea, right?
Cyclists don't have the right of way in a crosswalk.
Well, if you can make
Yeah,
it.
they do.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Cyclists do not have a right of way in a crosswalk.
Well, I'll tell you what, you ever hit somebody, they tell you whether they made a crosswalk or not, whether you're liable for it or not.
Pedestrians have a right of way in a crosswalk.
Yeah, if you're walking your
This is
bike,
like
you
right
have.
When
a
I'm,
right
when
of
I'm
way.
using crosswalks on my bicycle, I get off and I walk it.
That's very good of you.
Especially San Pablo Avenue and University.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly if all the different
So they're gonna
design.
have to have a yield, an
Well,
actual yield sign of some sort.
I
Well-
guess my question, this came to us, we already had a big discussion about it, but it sounds like there's a lot of cool things in here. Will this come back as part of the grant process to show us the plans before they go in?
I'm sure it's in,
Okay.
because it says in planning, so,
Okay, so
um,
it'll come back.
but I guess there's an application that
Bike
is
share
due.
station on the greenway?
On the Greenway, I think that is part of
That's
the
great.
discussion.
I just
yes.
want to say when it says in planning, it does not mean planning division.
Part, yes.
It's the
Right.
planning
It's
part of that
It's over
process.
there in planning.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, that's
I'm
not,
sorry,
that's
can
not
I
me.
go back and ask one more question? I'm sorry, I'm just forgetting, but part of this Bike Boulevard signage, was part of that to get street signs on the Greenway so that you know what street you're at? Because that's been a big, we've talked about that, and maybe you don't know because it's kind of Nancy's.
Yeah, Nancy, I can
Okay.
ask her.
Would you, I hope it is, if not, maybe it could be part of the Greenway crossings signage, because as a bicyclist, you kind of have to just learn what street you're at, but it would be really nice to know if it's
Turn off.
62.
Oops. Okay.
I've done that so many times, let me tell
I
you.
can address Tom's comment about right of way if you're interested.
Yeah,
The flashing beacons don't change right of way. It's not a traffic control device.
Right.
So.
You need a yield sign there.
Well, and this is how they're being used. There's rapid flashing beacons on the Ohlone Greenway going up towards El Cerrito at a crosswalk. There's Berkeley is using them in multiple locations along
But
bike
they're
routes.
using,
bikes.
And-
yield signs
and-
at
no.
certain places.
No, they're most often not accompanied by yield. And Oakland is also planning on using them along the bike path as well. The intention, whether you agree with this or not, is to bring attention to the crossing and not necessarily to change right of way. The intention is to get drivers to pay attention to the crossing and slow down and look. It doesn't change who gets to go first, but it does hopefully, increase awareness.
Well, it doesn't change, not who gets to go first, the vehicles still have the right of way.
I think even if there's no sign, the motorist is still responsible for
Yes.
yielding to a pedestrian in the
Right, a
crosswalk.
pedestrian, absolutely.
A cyclist is not going to have the right of way regardless.
Right, and so why don't they put a little,
Traffic
I mean, what are they gonna do, put little push button things and expect us to stop there at the Greenway?
You don't even
And wait
like-
for the cars to stop?
They know
Are
there's
they gonna put a stop
sensors,
sign
there's
there?
sensors.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and that will make, the cyclists ride through the crosswalk without stopping at the intersection?
Right, well, that's how it works
And when
as
they
it
get
goes
hit
to
by
El
a car,
Cerrito.
there's gonna be a big lawsuit.
No,
I think you're still, well, actually, the way they do it in El Cerrito is there's a stop sign at each crossing,
Exactly.
in addition to the
For the
sensor
bicycle,
that makes
for
the
the
lights
bicycle.
flash. For the bicyclists, there's a stop sign
Yeah,
at each
Berkeley
crossing.
has that at a lot
Yeah,
of their.
but it's not a traffic control device, it's an intention awareness device.
Right.
In terms of yield signs, I think that might be an additional component.
Well, that's what
For
I've been pushing
instance-
for the whole
Yeah,
time.
for
I
instance,
think that would be great to have an actual yield sign there
I don't,
for vehicular traffic.
I think in this case here,
And at
that,
65th, there should be a stop.
I think in this case here, that we don't need a grant to afford a yield sign. I think that's a different decision-making process.
Okay.
So I think that's probably why
Okay.
it's not listed
Okay.
here.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is that this ATP round is going a little bit more forward than the past ones. This is actually split for 2019-2020 grant award, as well as a 2020 and 2021 grant award. So even if the city wins these things, there still might be
It's gonna be a
some
while.
opportunity to do things in the interim with signage or other low-cost.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We did talk about yield signs, we talked about stop signs, and those are cheap, and you could just, with a decision, you could put those up, so that's a different thing. Anyway, okay.
Greenway, Stanford to Powell.
I think that when it's going to happen should just be changed to the quarter ahead of wherever we are, because that's what it seems to be for that. It just keeps not
You want to put the
happening.
word construction expected to begin fall 2016?
Is it, I mean, it seems like it was supposed to be a year or two ago, and it keeps getting put off.
Mm.
I don't know if there's,
Yeah, except for there's actually movement happening on the
There is.
project. So
Okay,
that's,
so it
that's
actually
more
might
than
happen.
just, it's gonna be in the future, that's a pretty
Okay, well, that's great, that's great.
timeframe.
Is it going out to bid? Like, did Mike mention that? Why?
I don't think it's that far.
Okay. Okay. Horton Street traffic calming. Oh, the bid, maybe that's what I was thinking of, the bid process here.
Yeah, that's the thing that we're all questioning. So what is the design that's approved after we've fought and fought?
I think we brought that last month.
Yeah, that was the thing with the speed humps.
Speed bumps. The
Vertical.
only place in the city.
Vertical deflection.
Now, the community approved an alternative design, but the staff said it couldn't go one block, so they threw that out, and they just decided to go with the other one. So the whole process was ridiculous, because the community
Well,
approved one.
the
and
choices
they-
that we were hoping to have weren't included necessarily.
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
because it didn't go for half a block doesn't mean it can't go the whole rest of the way. I just didn't think that was a reason to throw that preferred alternative out.
In the long run, there's gonna be a traffic diverter down there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's in the EIR for sure, Williams.
Right. Should be at 40th Street,
And that's in
on the record.
that is actually, I think, I can't remember, but I think it's in the EIR for sure. This is 40th Street traffic diverter.
Oh, really?
I
'Cause
think so, it might not be.
their
40th.
original was to have some weird stuff at 45th and at Horton.
I
Well, the
think, yeah.
mitigation, I read
That's what
that
their
part.
original plan that they came to us with.
But the mitigation measures that the EIR come up with said you have to have traffic diverters to really keep the bike boulevard
Right.
traffic how it should be, so.
Is that a way of keeping Brian from calling you?
I don't know.
Okay, just checking.
Which project is that, sidewalk improvement, which project is that?
That is a completed project that repaired trip and fall hazards in residential neighborhoods.
So they're all fixed now in the whole city?
In residential neighborhoods, we replaced
Yeah, I'd say they
them.
did a beautiful job in front of my house.
Okay.
Eventually we did,
Fix
right?
some curb too, yeah, no, it's great.
It took a while.
But safe routes, are we up to safe routes to school? What's going, that's video dissection.
Isn't that 45th, 43rd, 45th, and 47th? Do you know about that one?
Yeah, there's some construction going on there right now.
But all three, not just, it says 47th here. Isn't it, is it all three, or is it just,
I know.
Well, this is specific to video detection, it says at 47.
okay.
The other ones, I don't know if it includes that or not. The original Safe Routes to School did include all of those intersections,
Yeah.
but the video detection aspect of it might
Okay.
be specific to that intersection.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because there is no light for 43rd, for example, so they wouldn't have video detection.
Right, no, what I meant was this, the 47th, the fact that it included 47th for the whole line. I was thinking, oh, what about 43rd and 45th? But that's
That I
part of
don't
the
know, I think
process.
it'd be something
Well, it's a
else.
private school, so maybe it's not included.
Uh,
Escuela Bolívar, right? It's a
47th is where the high school
Right,
is.
but you said 43rd and 45th, and that would be Escuela.
45th is where Escuela Bilingüe is. 43rd is where
Anna Yates.
Arizmendi is, yeah.
Okay,
So, but I think this is all three. Anyway,
There's construction right now going on,
yeah,
all of those.
okay.
And so Shell Mound, anticipated movement summer 2015.
Yeah, that is the typo.
Okay. So, summer 2017 or 2016?
It's supposed to say 2016.
Okay.
So the marketplace, I know that got sent back to the drawing board, that's coming back this
They look
summer.
like they're ready to go, but,
Well, it does say anticipated movement, so that could be one of the ones that should just say next quarter and not change.
Well, I think the developer is interested probably in moving that one forward.
Yeah, because, you know, when they put that garbage in 20-some years ago, it was a different standard, and now it's, they want cyclists, they want pedestrians.
Yeah.
Is this, would be local in this?
So,
They know what they're doing. There's a reason they depreciate commercial property so quick. Because it is worthless 25 years later.
So the South Bayfront Bridge, that's the 53rd Street Bridge over to Bay Street. And so it actually is moving. That's exciting. The funding is
So,
there.
do we have the money?
Yeah.
Apparently we do.
All of
The
it?
budget. I think what is, the only delay that's really happening now is getting the railroad back,
To approve it again.
and I guess it's going well, it just takes a while, so.
You're gonna give us 6 hours or 8 hours to do that thing? So you have to move it over.
5 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes, yeah, right.
Serious.
Another train coming, get out of it.
So is there any anticipation how long it's gonna take to get the railroad to agree?
I don't know the timeframe, but I do know that it's moving ahead and everyone's very happy that, you know, the new people that are there, because it's not the same people, are being receptive and meeting with us and.
That's
All right,
Yeah,
that sounds
so
good.
it just takes a long time.
Good.
but It's going, I think it's.
Well,
going
they've kind of had an approval before, right, with the railroad? Of
I
what
don't
to
think they ever
do?
got a final
I
approval
think they did have,
originally.
no, I thought they had an approved design. I wasn't part of that process, so I don't know for sure, but I thought the railroad did finally sign off. And then redevelopment got pulled, and so they sort of got the legs pulled out from under.
Yeah, we didn't know when we had the money.
Right.
Well, they agreed to the design, but they didn't agree to the time period when it was gonna be allowed. And that was the difficulty. They didn't wanna agree to any time period.
Well, they'll, you know, wait for us to build the bridge and let it sit there
So the
until
vi-
they approve, letting it on.
You can't build the
So
bridge
the
without
video
that approval.
detection is on there for Powell and
You need to
Doyle,
right away.
even though I think Michael said that was gonna be like 2 years from now or something.
What does that mean, video detection?
It means new traffic signals with video detectors for bicycles and cars.
Powell and Doyle,
Which will activate the traffic signals?
he's thinking fall of this year.
Oh, really?
That project would start.
That would be great.
But-
That's such a problem intersection right now. Awesome.
That's tentative though, and we don't. It says in progress, we haven't started that part of that long paragraph yet, so.
The second, that end sentence. Okay. Well, that's good. I think that's sooner than I heard last time.
Anything else on here we have to discuss?
Mike added some traffic impact projects at the bottom, if you haven't noticed, PG&E at Powell and Hollis. Apparently it's supposed to be done in late June, and he's saying Mud is doing a very long project, but the section that's on Christie is also supposed to be done in late June. But they're gonna be all over the city for many more months.
Are they putting in recycled water lines all over the city?
Yeah, but they're sort of doing it, well, they're doing one long one, and they're doing it in weird little chunks.
Does this mean that current existing buildings could get recycled water?
I don't know about how you connect to this pipeline.
Yeah,
I mean, first they're
yeah.
building the main, the large
Yeah.
main, and then I would
It's
assume
gonna be
they
for
would
commercial
then
only? Is that what it's gonna be? For like, you know, landscaping for commercial or something?
Well, I wanted to clarify first, when you said all over the city, you know, we don't, it's
It's
not
just-
going to go like.
It's not like
east,
they're
west,
plumbing
branched
the whole
out.
city, they're just
Right.
putting one line.
It's just expanding the north-south a little bit to reach a little bit further west than it does now. So there's gonna be one on each side of the railroad, right? Is there one near Hollis now? Anyway,
It's going north-south too.
yeah, it's north-south, so it's not going to like the eastern residential neighborhoods or out to the peninsula or something like that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sure, I know it definitely can serve on a residential project, the landscaping, if it's, like some of them already have that, but other than that, I don't know. It's typically most like, in San Jose, I've seen a lot of the studies on it, and it usually serves industrial uses the best, just because they can pipe back into it too if they need to, but, yeah, it can be used for residential, for landscaping, absolutely. Pixar has purple pipe all over their landscaping.
Cool.
That's, not that that's residential, but just saying.
Yeah, well, some of the workers probably live there.
I was gonna say, well, not as part of their conditions of approval.
That's for sure.
Right.
And so PG&E is doing the gas main, huh? Okay. Is that it for this part?
Future.
I believe so.
Future agenda items, okay, so we're gonna ask somebody from Bay Street to come and talk at one of our meetings. I'd like to propose that we do that.
I'll
We have
second
enough
the
people
motion.
to,
Can we add a friendly amendment to that one?
how
And
Bay
also
Street Wall, or whatever they call
Powell
themselves?
Street Station?
Whatever they call
Plaza, to invite them.
Powell Street Plaza.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna reach out and talk to Jan, so, but I don't know about House Street Plaza, somebody else can do that.
Just
I
to,
just wanna ask about that to clarify at the same time, or is like a separate thing for them specifically? Because it might be a lot to look at it together,
Okay.
whereas it might be more useful to focus on their individual
Site-specific.
Yeah.
needs.
I'm just thinking that, like, so that Bay Street doesn't feel as though
Absolutely.
we're just directing at them, and then also to address the parking issue in the, across the street.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I don't think Bay Street has feelings, so don't worry about it.
go ahead.
I think that's.
Yeah, you're not.
Are you saying letting
yeah.
them know that we're doing
The only way to hurt their
outreach in
feelings is they
general,
have their
Okay.
revenue go down,
that kind of thing?
right?
Yeah.
They're a corporate entity, they respond to.
Okay, so then I'll take it back. It sounds like it won't even pass through.
Yeah, let's try Bay Street first and see what the heck happens.
Yeah, well,
See if
and
they'll talk.
we can let,
And yeah.
See who responds.
Yeah, I think
Right.
there's no harm in inviting them.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
just saying not necessarily the same item, like
Right,
to
right.
look at it individually, but certainly invite
Yeah.
whoever.
Yeah,
Tea and cookies, you know?
it would be really good to invite the Powell Street Plaza. Maybe they won't come, but maybe there's a manager who's local or something who can come. I don't know.
you know, when I say not local, I mean, they may be like in Livermore or
Okay,
something, you
so
know.
they could
I don't
come.
remember exactly where they
They
are,
have no
but,
incentive to come because we're not forcing them. We can't force them, but
yeah, you know,
That's
I
correct.
mean, if they think it would help
Benefit them.
customers, but we can say to Bay Street, we're not just inviting you, we're
Mhm.
also inviting other, larger property, you know, retail
probably they have
centers.
crappy bike parking.
Who owns Powell Street Plaza? Is it insurance or?
I don't know the name of the owner, I know the insurance, I mean, the management company is like Regency Centers and.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a hand over there.
Yes, sir.
I have a suggestion for another potential agenda item. I think
I don't think you're allowed to
Why
suggest agenda items.
I
can
can suggest
suggest.
that you suggested it.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
talk to her.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as I know, the Highway Safety Improvement Program grants application for the state is in August of this year. And that's another grant, that's available for locations that have a history of, crashes, such as, for instance, Powell Street.
Oh,
and-
sure.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good point. We need to add that to the.
It's very short notice, but I would just be curious to know if there's any applications that staff is planning on submitting, and if so, to give the BPAC a chance to hear about them before the applications go.
I can ask.
Okay, that'd be great, thank you.
So, you know what, that also reminds me that I had forgotten that I would like to move that we add to the agenda next time a discussion of what kind of mitigation measures we can do at that very difficult freeway crossing, and we can maybe roll into it any kind of grant applications, funding we could get. And also, I know that there is a plan for that Powell Street corridor. I don't know if it's all complete or if there's more phases, and maybe the discussion could include that, how would this coordinate? Because I know in the past when we've brought it up, sometimes we've been told, well, there's a plan and we're going to work on it, but I don't know that the plan is necessarily going to mitigate that intersection, because it's tough. That's a very tough intersection.
Just to get back to what Robert suggested, highway safety improvement
Program.
okay.
HC.
And did you say August it's due?
I believe so.
Because if we meet in July, it doesn't give.
July 11th,
Yeah, so I don't know if, I'd have to check in with like Nancy or Mike or somebody, see if we're already planning it, because just for them to just first get started on it, July 11th, I don't think, that's.
Yeah, I wouldn't
enough
expect that
time.
either. It would just be a chance for input from the BPAC
Right,
before
right,
going
right.
They're already
forward
doing
with-
it, yeah.
Okay, so now that you've suggested it, our committee can respond, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we should suggest that along with, I don't know, planning department updates or something, that anything that is grant applications be discussed.
Okay.
You can put that on me, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
But
Just messing with them.
I also do
you're one of
want
our ways of communicating with the city.
but I also do want to move that we discuss Powell Street and that.
Before we move on to
You
that,
wanna
sorry,
do
Oh,
this
yeah,
separate?
I just
Okay.
want to finish what we're talking about here.
Okay.
So you now have changed this item from the highway improvement, highway safety improvement programs to expand to any grants?
Well, any grants that affect bicycles and pedestrians. Yeah,
And what is the item exactly? You want to know what they are or what staff is working on
Yeah,
or?
it wouldn't hurt.
Is that like a staff update that you want?
It'd be
Is that what
wonderful.
you're-
Sometimes we've had more like study sessions, depending like on the star intersection and stuff, we've had sort of, I think it depends.
Oh, well, if they needed a study session, trust me, they would be
Yeah,
here
okay.
talking to you about it. But I just want to know what you are asking for us to bring to the next meeting. You want information on grants that we're currently working on, or, so, you know, we're going to, highway safety improvement programs, if it's already in.
Is that a bicycle pedestrian issue? I guess the fact that people get whacked at that
We
intersection.
have an
all the time.
ongoing list of what they're applying for and then the status of it to be brought up, you know, at various meetings, right? So we should know all the grants that are in progress and really get a status report.
So maybe like with this project tracking list, we can also include any grants that are in progress, or something like
Right.
that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to make you do too much.
There's
Well,
probably not that many
it's
at
not
any
that so
one
much,
time.
I just want to understand what you're asking, because I can just see me coming into work tomorrow going, now, what did I write? You know, what did they want? So I just want to make sure I understand it, so, okay.
So our future agenda items, have we decided, have
Powell
we voted
Street.
on the Powell Street and Bay Street?
You made a motion.
Bay
on
Street we
Street.
voted on, right?
No,
Did
we
vote
didn't
on Bay
vote
Street?
yet.
Oh,
I don't think so.
Maybe we should
No,
vote
we
on
haven't
that.
voted on anything yet.
Do you want to vote on them together or separately?
I think that we should invite both the Bay Street management and the Powell Street Plaza management in for a discussion about improving bicycle parking on their sites.
And safety.
Well, that's Powell Street, yeah, but more, not.
Just throw it in there just in case you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Bike safety and,
Parking and
Parking.
safety. Yeah,
Okay.
Parking first, because
Yeah, parking is
that seems to be what's driving this at this
Yeah.
point.
Second?
All right, I
Yeah,
second your motion.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously
Unanimous,
approved,
okay.
yeah, we want it. And then what was the other thing, is to ask you guys to, you know, we don't have to do that, we could just suggest that to you guys, right? Doesn't have to be an item that we discuss.
the grant thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll just ask that we include that on the project tracking list.
okay.
But at the same time, there was this one that Robert brought up, and I don't know, I mean, I can inquire about that, and I'm assuming anything that the staff needs input from BPAC for, they'll bring it. I just,
Okay.
And then you also want to add that item where the guy had the accident that we're going to take. a
Yeah,
look.
discussion of safety, that's the next item. is Powell Street.
right, the one that Phil brought up earlier,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Do we want to invite city council candidates to come and hear from us what we think priorities are over the next few years going forward?
That would be for you guys to,
Are we allowed to do that? Is there some restriction? We've never done it.
city
before.
council members are
Well,
not
these-
supposed to
these are
participate in the
candidates.
meeting, they can come and be a fly on the wall.
No,
I don't think you
none
should
of
do
them
that.
are-
We're
none of
talking
them are
about
members.
candidates.
Candidates.
Candidates, yeah,
Just,
but if they're existing council members that are, I don't
You
know.
can
they're
check
not.
with the attorney's
They're-
office first.
no, they're current members
You
who
go-
will
I
be
mean, I
up for
think-
election.
You won't do the
Apparently
candidate
not running.
until August.
So they're all new candidates.
Okay.
I think that they're, yeah, that's it, I don't know. It seems like they would be allowed. But before we talk about that, could we vote on could we put someone second the Powell Street thing?
Powell Street's already, oh, you mean?
No, we didn't vote
the
on
Powell, about the safety issues.
The
there.
safety issues at those two
Okay,
intersections.
I'll second that.
Okay, when you say two intersections, this is the
The
first.
one where the accident just happened.
Okay, so at the off ramp and also at Christie
Yeah,
and
where
Powell?
the cycle track is.
So Christie and Powell?
Yeah.
Not the whole cycle track, but just
No,
Christie
no,
and
just
Powell?
the intersections.
Okay. So intersection.
We don't know what the safety's gonna be like on the cycle track yet.
Well, the cycle track, I think, is
Yeah, that's
one
safe,
issue, but
just the-
but
just
it's
the
getting
crossing.
to the cycle
The
track when you
crossing.
have cars continuously turning right. It's a safety issue. That's a very scary intersection. to
Okay,
cross.
okay, so, that would
They
include,
need fewer lanes.
from police, a history of
Right.
crashes,
You talked about
Or-
getting the accident report from the most recent one. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Should we title this agenda item, why is Powell Street so dangerous?
You guys are working on these agenda items, not me.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to vote on having a discussion about that intersection?
Yeah.
Two
Okay.
intersections.
Yeah.
Okay.
that
Two
is fine.
intersections.
Yeah.
I mean, safety on that part of the Bay Trail would be a lot. I mean, once we someday we'll fix those intersections, and then we'll realize that there's some other crossings farther on the other side of the freeway that are really messed up, but they're so safe compared to those intersections.
So I just wanted also to get you guys to request the best people, I think, to engage with you on this. I know we want police, but we also need, I don't know who that means.
Someone from planning.
Maurice or
We
Mike.
discussed one of those intersections, the second one, the second crossing.
A couple of
And
times.
Maurice was here, and his only comment was, well, I see this needs further study or further attention.
I
The
feel-
crossing on Christie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a lot of pushback. Well, part of
Yeah,
it
we
was,
did. We
it
did.
wasn't part of most of the project, so it was hard bringing it up. But in the past, I feel like we've been told that, too bad, so we just have to keep bringing it up.
Yeah,
until
stuff
we
like-
get
You know,
another
I
answer.
almost feel like it's unfair to put the bait trail through there, because those two crossings
Trail? What trail?
are so
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah,
It's not a
I agree.
trail.
I think
I mean, to me, I wouldn't even put it there, for
Yeah.
to me.
yeah, I agree.
It's that dangerous.
Yeah. So, yeah, so well, I think it's good. We keep discussing it, and someday something will happen. We'll get moving.
So,
Hopefully before anyone gets killed with that. I don't know if
Exactly.
anyone has actually been killed
No,
at that
I don't think
intersection.
so.
I've heard
They
it
tend not
at
to
the
be
off.
going 45 miles an hour, that helps.
Yeah.
I've heard at the off, I heard a while ago at the off ramp that that's the police on bicycles, that's where their accidents were.
Right,
Yeah.
every single one
They
of
were
our
hit.
bicycle policemen has been hit there.
There. Okay.
One of whom had to retire because of that.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
well, that's.
And that costs.
There've
the
only
city
been like
revenue.
4 people.
Yeah, we don't
Well,
always
There's
have
a lot
bicycles.
of people to be.
It is in a
hit
small
there.
town, yeah, yeah. All right, should we
All
vote
right,
on
so-
And
that?
that's before they fixed it up though.
Sure.
Fixed it.
All right, so
It's a big improvement.
can we vote on the,
Sure, go ahead.
I'll
Let's
second.
call the roll. If she seconded it,
you seconded it,
all in, oh, I did?
yeah.
Okay, I
So long
seconded it.
ago you
She
Well,
thirded
well,
it.
who was firsted?
I was first.
Okay, Laura.
Okay, so call the roll. Everybody in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes.
All right. So on the other one, the Bay Street.
Yeah, what
and-
else are you guys putting on the agenda?
Well, no, I'm sorry, I didn't get who, let's see, for Bay Street, the bike parking, all that, who, was that yours?
And you was Tom and Miguel seconded?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Doesn't matter that much,
And
as long as it gets on the agenda.
do we want to say that that's just Bay Street, or do we want to say Bay Street
The
and?
two.
We
were
want
gonna
to invite both at the same
Yeah.
meeting.
Well,
Sure,
let's
to
invite
see what
both,
happens.
they may not end up at the same meeting.
But if they both came,
Two different
that could be
agenda
like
items.
an hour or more, just
We're
on
gonna
those
give
two
them 30
things.
minutes.
30 minutes
For
each.
both.
For each.
For each, that's like I said, an hour. Okay.
It's
So
an
that,
important issue.
it is, but that might nudge these other things.
It's a lot of 30 minutes.
Okay.
Because the Powell Street people like to show up.
Well, maybe, but I also think the likelihood is we'll be lucky if we get Jen.
What's the longest agenda item we ever do? 45 minutes, right?
Sometimes we have hour-long.
Well, sometimes it stretches to that, but I
Yes.
think we only assign 45
Oh,
minutes.
assigned?
This is
yeah.
only a 2-hour meeting.
It's actually, some people think it's supposed to be an hour and a half, but
It's always
Okay.
been 2 hours.
I know.
Well, so we're meeting less often, and now we're supposed to meet for an hour and a half and get
I know.
everything done.
No. I don't mean now it's supposed to be an hour and a half. I just remember hearing that, like, way back.
You
in
never know
general.
what's going to happen if we have more and more. If we have more projects, we may need more of this. And then anything else? We have any announcements or member comments? Items that were not on our
yeah.
agenda.
I'll comment that I did meet one of the council candidates, a woman named Ally, and she's a young woman that has a very extensive experience in political experience with the Democratic Party, and now she lives in Emeryville and soon will be working on this side of the bay. She was very passionate about bicycle and pedestrian issues. It seemed like that was her highest issue in terms of her level of passion, but she was overall very strongly interested in the quality of life issues. So she seemed like a really good candidate, a strong candidate.
I'll follow on that by saying that, now I'm forgetting, John Bowders.
Yeah, he's the other candidate.
Yeah, and I have heard that he was hit by a bicycle on a sidewalk. So I've been meaning to meet with him to have, because so he's kind of anti-bike. And so I think it would be nice if we had a nice discussion with him and talked about the fact that
He's
not all
certainly-
bicyclists
Yeah,
do that.
certainly. John Barris is very articulate, he's a very good speaker, and so he definitely talks a lot about quality of life issues. So he could probably answer questions to a group, but yes, I mean, if you could
Well,
get
I
more
think it would,
insight
I
into
think
his attitude.
he would be,
He just got a bike. He didn't have a bike before, but he just got a bike.
oh, did he? Well, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think it would be good to
You
have
ride
a
on the
discussion.
sidewalk or on the street?
Can I just say, I know this is my personal thing, and I know I keep bringing it up, but I would really, really like the light at Stanford heading westbound, Stanford, on Stanford, at crossing Hollis westbound to work for bikes. And it has not reliably worked for bikes since the construction ended. And I can turn it if I'm way over to the left, which is a very unsafe place when I'm going straight. And I can sometimes turn it random times, and I've heard this from other bicyclists, that it just doesn't work reliably for bicyclists. The sensor does not work. I have had times where I've sat there and sat there and sat there, and it will not turn for me. And I am in what looks to me
You
like
then
the
have the
center
right
of
of
the
way to
lane.
go.
I know
You
I
have the
do,
right to
but
go.
I really rather have a light that works for me. And a car pulls up and it turns like that. And it's not just the cycle, because I've seen it cycle much faster.
Is there
than
video
that.
detection there? Is that what they're supposed to be, or are they?
It is video.
ground?
It's video.
Okay, so it's probably angled the wrong way.
I don't
There's
know.
no sensor, there's no sensor in
Well,
it.
if Stanford and Hollis there, it would change, but if you give up the sensor, it changes back the other way so quickly.
Right, but there's no sensor anymore, it's video. The sensors actually worked quite well,
It's video detection.
or pretty well. It's now video detection and it's not working. So I don't know, is there, do you know, has the city kind of given up on this? Like, what do? I feel very frustrated with the process here, because I know.
You know, I tried, you know, I
Do
went
we
out
need to
there.
go to the city council and get them to lean on
I went out,
something?
there. Come to the Public Works Committee meeting, if you want to do that, or call Maurice, or call Mike.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just email them and I'll email some city council.
You know, I really don't know what else to say. I mean, the fact that we haven't been able to reproduce the non-functioning of it when
Well,
we've been there
part of
is,
the problem
it's
is-
hard for them to, it's hard to fix a problem when you're
That you
not
don't
seeing it
understand.
happen. Well, you're not seeing it happen, and so for them to call the people in that, you know, they have a contract with for these things, I don't know exactly what
Can
they
you
would
film
say.
it? Well, I mean, like get a GoPro or something and film it while you're there, while
I
it's
could
happening?
get someone to film me.
Just a
yeah.
thought.
Yeah,
Well, I'll
that's
film you
fine.
right now when we leave if you want to go.
Well, the trouble is you have to do it, the reason this is not a bigger issue is that there's a lot more traffic at that intersection than there used to be. So there often is a car coming through that will turn the light for me. But when I'm through there late at night or early in the morning,
Right.
or if I just hit a moment when there isn't traffic. So right now, I don't know how likely we would be.
Right, and the thing confounding it is that both Nancy and I, when we were there with our bikes and there were no cars, it worked. So that's the
But
problem.
I think you guys may have been farther over to the left. If I get
I was
over-
just going, I was in the position where I
You
would
would
be
go
if I was
straight.
going
And
straight,
it did work for you?
or turning left, either one. I just wasn't over on the right.
Yeah.
And it changed, so I don't know what to tell the people that contract
That
with
it's,
us.
what my wife said, who goes through there a lot at much earlier hours when there's less traffic than when I do, and she said it's just not reliable. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So that may be why you had that experience,
I don't
and why
know.
I've very consistently had the experience that it doesn't change for me unless there's a car there. Or
Not to
unless
drag
it-
this out too much, but I've worked with some vendors in Oakland on their traffic signals, and the more modern ones can detect the difference between a bike and a car. So if you go out there with the vendor, they can plug their computer into the signal, and you can ride through, and then they'll be able to tell you right away if it picked you up or not.
Oh.
But you have to go out there with the vendor, and they're very responsive because they want to sell more cameras. So that might be a path forward, so you can do it on a live testing that way.
Okay, so the vendor, so it sounds like the vendor might be able to troubleshoot it. You wouldn't have to necessarily know exactly what was wrong, but they could take the troubleshoot it. That would be really nice. I would really, really appreciate it. Because I'm big, I have a big bike. I'm not used to not being picked up.
Yeah.
All right, is that it for announcement and member comments? Good. Meeting
Thank
adjourned.
you.